Good morning. I'm going to call the Board of County Commission meeting of April 21st, 2015 to order. We welcome Pastor Susan Klaus, retired, to give us her invocation, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Will you pray with me? For the beauty of the earth, for the glory of the skies, for the love which from our birth over and around us lies. Lord of all, to thee we raise this our hymn of grateful praise. And may our hymn of grateful praise, Lord, resound through our day. May it be heard in the truth that we speak in our words and in the understanding in which they are heard. May our praise be known in the decisions that are made with wisdom, and may they be pleasing in your sight. But most of all, Lord, may our hymn of praise resound as we show our love to one another. For that, Lord, is the best way, the most perfect way to show our gratitude and love to you. Thank you, Lord, for this community, for these leaders, for all gathered here. Hear their prayers this morning, Lord. In Christ's name I pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Are you going to announce the air?
Right. Mr. County Administrator, are there changes to the agenda?
Morning, Madam Chair. Commissioners, we have one suggested change. Under Public Works, item number 26, Anna Maria Island Bridge Aesthetics Committee member appointment. We'd like to defer that for 2 weeks. That's the only change.
All right. Thank you. Everyone, please have a seat, and apologize. It's a little warm in here. I guess we're having a little issue with the air conditioning. So I found out it's not just me. Apparently, all of us are probably just a tad bit warm. At this time, I'm going to go a little bit out of order and ask for a motion to approve the proclamations.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Chair votes aye. Motion carries unanimously. Next up, we're going to have the introduction of Bob Smith, our new Public Safety Director.
Mr. Smith, if you could come forward, please. Commissioners, at a recent meeting, you confirmed the appointment of Mr. Smith, but we thought you would like to see who he is and have the public see who he is. He's recently, well, let's see, you're a veteran of a week now?
I am, yes, sir.
As stated when you confirmed him, he brings 22 years of experience to the job. He has most recently served as the Emergency Management, Risk Management, and Safety Director for Arlington, Virginia Public School System.
All right,
So,
Virginia.
welcome.
Commissioners, great to be here.
Welcome.
Mr. Smith.
Thank you.
All right, thank you for coming.
I appreciate the opportunity. I spent the last few days getting to know my staff. I've got a great team of professionals and certainly experts in their fields, and I look forward to working with them and hitting the ground running, and I think we'll do great things, so I'm looking forward to it.
Maybe Laurie can come down and talk about her introduction of you to the organization. Since Laurie has brought you on and toured you around a bit, she could tell us about your introduction.
The first thing we did was have a reception for Bob, and all the staff really welcomed him with open arms, giving him an opportunity to sit with every one of his managers and then go out and actually meet the staff. So he's only been here 3 days, last week and yesterday, so he's hit it running, and very professional, very caring person, wants his managers to manage. That's very obvious to me. So you've made an excellent choice, and I couldn't be happier, and I'm glad to pass the baton. Thank you. Thanks for allowing me to come
So
back.
when were you thinking of heading off into the highway?
We will be doing some traveling for sure in the motorhome. So,
Again.
again, yeah. But it's been my honor to come back, and thank you so much for always what you do for public safety. Staff really appreciates all of your support. Thank you.
Don't leave quite yet.
My goodness.
We would like to recognize you for your extended service to Manatee County, for coming back. So I do have a proclamation. So if your family would like, friends would like to come forward, I'm going to recognize you.
Wow.
We did well, didn't we?
You did. I've said when you called me down, I'm like, oh no, I didn't know how to talk. Well, thank you.
Uh-oh.
Good job.
You have quite a few people here.
Your staff wants to recognize you again. See, this is what happens when you get recognized twice. Okay, proclamation, Board of County Commissioners, Manatee County, Florida. Whereas Lori Fagan served over 15 years in the Emergency Management Division of Manatee County Government from 1997 until she retired on February 12, 2013. And whereas she professionally navigated a number of natural disasters during her tenure as Emergency Management Chief in Manatee County and served as an outstanding ambassador for our community while providing aid to communities after Hurricane Charlie in 2004 and Hurricane Katrina in 2005. And whereas in November of 2014, Lori answered a phone call during a family vacation to Disney World and was asked to step in an interim role as Public Safety Director for an anticipated 3 to 4 months. And whereas that same evening she took additional time from her Disney vacation to call back and commit to serving that role. And whereas during her 6 months as interim Public Safety Director, Lori focused her efforts on empowering division managers and providing a personal outreach to the public safety team, all while bolstering morale and improving the working relationships throughout the department and the community and developing an ardent following. And whereas Lori is once again leaving Manatee County, though never say never, to pursue the travel and retirement she has dreamed of, and has promised to answer her phone in the future. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed by the Board of County Commissioners of Manatee County, Florida, that April 21st, 2015 shall be known, designated, and set aside as Lori Fagan's Day in Manatee County, Florida, in recognition of her selfless contributions to Manatee County government and to our community, adopted with a quorum present and voting this 21st day of April 2015, signed by me as Chairman of the Board of County Commissioners.
Totally unexpected. Thank you so much. I'm humbled and I'm very honored. And I came back because I love the department and the county. I always appreciated everything Manatee County does, especially for their staff. So thank you. I'm very proud of this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have paraphernalia. I didn't realize we had so much stuff. And when you get in that motorhome, we have pens, pencils, cups,
Oh, wow.
water jugs.
That's great. Thank you.
So you can't forget us.
I know. It's all branded, too. It's lovely. Oh, yes, I'll be doing
You'll have to
that a
find your
lot.
way home.
Yep. And a beach
All
towel. Thank
beach
you.
towel, everything
Thank
for
you.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Always a phone call. Thank you much.
Retirement again. Everybody else has it on. We have to read a proclamation.
Okay.
I get to. so-
Thank you very much for your service to the county.
Thanks, Lori.
We obviously have you on speed dial.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, welcome, Bob.
All right. Next up, we're going to have a retirement award for Clayton Allen.
Yay.
Good morning, Commissioners. Chad Butso, Public Works. That introduction there says it all.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say much this morning, but Clayton is just one of those all-around guys. Always has a smile on his face, always positive. A good go-to guy. He's helped out with numerous things, and always our fair go-to person on the committee, and just he's a pleasant individual. Nobody has ever had a problem working with Clayton, and just positive aspect every day, and that kind of is resembled within the team behind him that stands with him today. I'm going to let Danny talk a little bit more about Clayton.
35 years.
Danny Smith, Public Works. Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
Once again, we stand in front of you with a long-term employee leaving us. Clayton has worked for Public Works for 35 years. We're very fortunate to have worked with Clayton. There is not a person in our organization who has a more positive outlook on a daily basis than Clayton. Always a kind word, always a smile, never a complaint, always happy to be here. We're going to miss him. We're going to miss his attitude. We're going to miss his expertise in our work. He's just a very kind person, and it lightens your day to see him every morning. At this time, I'm going to let his supervisor, who's known him for a long time, Joey Davis, say a few words.
Joey.
All right, yeah, Commissioners, I've known Clayton, like I say, I've been here 30 years myself, so we've known each other quite a while. And when we embrace the ACE concept, this is it right here, guys. Accountability, civility, ethics. Clayton is where he's such a company man. I tell you, if we could get 50 more like him, we would be in excellent shape. But and not only that, he's a hard worker, and he's a great friend, a great comrade and team player. You know, he takes the time to foster the newer guys, and I'm probably going to get a little choked up because I love him like my own brother.
Oh.
We might be brothers from a different mother. I don't know, but I, like I said, I love him with all my heart, and kudos to him. He just became an ordained pastor as well. So you know that's great. For the work and county, he has a heart for people, and you're not going to get that any better than that, guys. If you have a heart for people, you're gonna benefit, and you're gonna support, and you're gonna give 100% in all you do. And me and Clayton, and I mean we banter back and forth. My whole crew it's like a big family. You can't imagine. But with Clayton, I forgot what I was going to say. God, that Alzheimer's disease kicking in on me, guys. I'm sorry. But I know what I was going to tell you guys. We encountered a paving operation, kind of off the cuff there, a little unsure what we were doing. But me and Clayton got together, you know, every time before we start to pave, me and Clayton get over there and we say a little prayer. And I tell you what, we've changed things, haven't we, Clayton? We've changed things. But I tell you, I love him, and we're going to miss him. My goodness. In fact, I was wanting to do a proclamation. I don't know what a proclamation is, but I'd like to do something. See if we can maybe revoke it. Keep him around about 2.5 more years. You guys ready? But anyway, thank you guys, and we're going to miss him, and the county's been good to him, but he's been great to the county. So, Clayton, thank you, buddy.
Yay, Clayton.
Wow. Couldn't hardly follow that, Joe. I am humble. I'm
Friend
humble
loves you.
to be at this point.
Deep breath.
Words cannot express how I feel. I thought about it a long time, about what could I say and what could I have done more. But to be able to raise my family and stand before you at this time, I mean, I just can't express how grateful I am to have the opportunity to work for Manatee County. And I started out with no kids, and now I have 6 grands, 7 grands, I'm sorry. But the county's been good to me and my family, and I'm grateful. I'm humble to stand at this time, I haven't always been great, but it's been a good place to work. We've got a good team that we work with. All of us work together, and we're like a family, like Joe said. And we're concerned about one another. If something goes wrong with one, we try to make sure that we see about that person. That's a good thing. Never had a bad day, never met a bad person that couldn't get along with some kind of way. So you just got to make your effort to lead by example. That's what I always try to do. I'm not a man of many words, but I am grateful, again, to be able to stand before you at this time, to have 35 years here. I never could have been a better place to work. And again, I want to say thank you so much. Oh.
Just got one question for you. Are you going to go into ministry? God bless you.
Congratulations, Clayton. Enjoy your retirement.
Pretty awesome. It's ready for it. Yeah, pretty awesome.
Thank you for letting us know.
Let it come.
Commissioner Smith, did you want something?
Yes, Madam Chair. I wanted to say something before he leaves.
Okay.
Yeah, I wanted to say something to him before he leaves. All the years I've known you, you've always been a stand-up person. And the years serving as an ordained deacon, and now you done moved on to be a pastor. Not only do I know your family is proud of you, I know your father, who served many years pastoring churches. And I still can hear his voice in you when you line at him and sing a song. I wish much love to you and your family. You exemplified what a man really should be.
Yep.
You really have. And God bless you. And 35 years here is great. And so you really empower someone else when you say those different things. 35 years on one job. That's unheard of these days now.
Amen.
Thank you.
I just want to say that to you and your family.
Thank you.
All right.
Yes.
Next up, we have another retirement award.
Please.
This is a trend, I'm afraid, that folks who can retire, but we have Miss Irma Reichert, I think. Please come forward.
Will everybody come on down?
I'm staying out there. So nice with her. She just
Madam Chairman, Commissioners, Brenda Rogers, Department Director for Community Services, and we're here today to celebrate a 26-year career of Irma Reichert. As I was listening to the accolades about Clayton, I thought how similar these two individuals are. Irma is also a very kind and gentle person, but she can be firm when she needs to be, as you can imagine, serving as a probation officer. She exemplifies the ACE principle absolutely, and we're just really proud of her and her accomplishments and look forward to her enjoying her retirement. I'd like to share just a little bit about some of her career highlights. She started in the Manatee County Supervised Release Unit as a probation assistant in 1988 and was soon promoted to lead probation assistant. And then a few years later, she was promoted to a probation officer, and that was in 2003. In 2011, she was promoted to being a senior probation officer. And at that time, she took over the duties for the DUI court and serving as the probation officer for that particular function. And then I think a lot of people know that in our department, we hire a lot of probation officers. It is our position that's the hardest to keep people engaged in that position for lots of reasons. And so we as a staff really looked at what could we do to help with this position, to make it easier for people to be successful. And so we turned to Irma, and she became our training officer at that time in December of 2012. We didn't have a curriculum. Irma developed that, and she went through what the different duties were that probation officers have. She was the non-supervisory mentor, so our new staff could go to her and ask her questions that you may not want to ask your supervisor. And so she has fulfilled that duty beautifully, and we have a stronger unit because of her work. In 2013, she became the Florida Department of Law Enforcement Terminal Agency Coordinator for the Probation Division. And as you know, we have a number of partners that are affiliated with our work in probation, and we have many assignments from both the court, from the on the state level, and other partners that we need to have liaisons, and she has served that well. In 2014, she completed Leadership Academy 2. As you might guess, she's been very diligent in assisting with bilingual duties and her Spanish-speaking skills throughout her career. She's been called upon for that service. Her file shows a number of professional accomplishments, but what the file doesn't show are the personal things that make Irma a very special employee. She has served as mentor, as advisor, as helper, as peacemaker, and sometimes as mother through her leadership, and she's definitely a go-to person. At this time, I'd like to introduce Jennifer Berg, who is our division manager, and she'll finish up our presentation. Thank you.
Good morning. I agree with everything that Brenda said. I did think when Mr. Clayton was being discussed that it was similar, and so I guess at this point we are unfortunately losing some really unbelievable employees. This one is a little bit hard for me. Irma is the type of employee that you enjoy seeing every day, that you enjoy talking to, and that she makes a difference every day in our office. And so while we are all exceedingly happy for her and her retirement, nobody deserves it more, she will be missed very much, and we love you. In recognition for your years of dedicated service to Manatee County government, November 21st, 1988 to May 1st, 2015. No one deserves this more than you.
Oh.
Thank you.
I'd like to thank the Board of County Commissioners for the opportunities I had while I was here. I remember saying, some people say, why can't I earn as much as you do when I'm just coming in? And I'm like, well, there's a lot of things that you have to learn and experience and share with others. I've enjoyed all the new employees coming in and sharing what I've learned. And because you have always helped us in having those opportunities to go to classes, to learn, to offer guidance as I was. I'm very proud of my family, my team family, and my children. And we are a family. And that's what we say, I'm coming home. I'm coming home. So this is the home I've known for 26 years. And now I'm going to my home. and hopefully take care of that and be able to enjoy whatever time we have. But Manatee County is a wonderful place to work with. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. We have people in every single department that if you need something, pick up the phone, call the extension, somebody's going to help you. And we always are allowed the time to be able to do these things, and that is the best, because no one is ever, oh, I would like to do that. Well, then put in for it. It's wonderful. We'll make the time. We'll make sure that you're covered. You do it. This is important to you. It's important to us. So we are a team, family, and I love every single one of them. Every single one of them. And I just whoever comes and replaces me also enjoys the years that I've had. Okay? But thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're going to miss you. I know.
Probably should have all just stood down there while we go through all of them. That's how they do it. They all stand right in. Joy, you retired.
All right, next up, we're going to have a proclamation, American Cancer Society Relay for Life. Carol, you're up. You can carry them all. Here we go.
Of all people, I get to give this proclamation to my old-time friend. We've been nurses together at Manatee Hospital for years, and you worked at hospice and, worked on oncology unit. Sharon has been a godsend to this community, and she's helped many people. So I didn't expect to
And
see
I've been involved with the American Cancer
Exactly. This is your world. All right. Whereas in May of 1985, Dr. Gordy Klatt walked in and ran for 24 hours around a tract in Tacoma, Washington, raising $27,000 to help the American Cancer Society fight the nation's biggest health concern, cancer. And whereas a year later, 340 supporters joined the overnight event. And whereas since those steps, the Relay for Life movement and overnight community fundraising walk has grown into a worldwide phenomenon, raising nearly $5 billion to fight cancer. And whereas to Relay for Life events, communities across the globe come together to honor cancer survivors, remember loved ones lost, and fight back against this disease, and whereas several Relay for Life events have been scheduled throughout Manatee County during the months of April and May. Now therefore be it proclaimed by the Board of Manatee County Commissioners that Manatee County, Florida recognizes the efforts of the American Cancer Society and Relay for Life volunteers in their work to fight against cancer, adopted with a quorum present and voted this 21st day of April 2015, signed by our chair, Betsy Benek. And I have many proclamations for you to pass out to everyone. There you go, Sharon.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
On behalf of the Board of Directors of the American Cancer Society, thank you so much for this, and this will mean a lot to them. Thank you.
That's it?
That's it.
Good luck with your events.
Thank you.
Okay, and next up, speaking of retirements, we have Chief Andy Price-Stay. Chief would come forward.
Come on down. Yeah, if everybody wants to come on down. I'll let the chief do the introductions after I'm done reading this, but, you know, this is a remarkable day here in Manatee County. We have had the retirement of a lot of unbelievably great individuals that have served and are dedicated to our community. And, you know, I've heard words like leadership, guidance, honor, commitment to the community, and those words apply to every one of those individuals, and they also, of course, apply to Chief Andy Price, who's retiring after 35 years of dedicated service to Manatee County, to the West Side, to the island. It's been an incredible career, and you have done an amazing job. You have led this group of men, created an unbelievably great team, one of the best in the country for fire departments, the protection of our community. So, you know, I thank you so much, and it is an honor, and I'm going to read this now. Whereas Chief Price began his career as a volunteer firefighter at Anna Maria Fire District and later became a career firefighter, paramedic at Northeast Fire District in Longboat Key Fire Department. And whereas Chief Price served as the fire marshal for Anna Maria Fire District and was appointed as the fire chief in 1992. And whereas while the Anna Maria Fire District, Chief Price worked to establish a basic life support agreement with Manatee County Emergency Medical Services, including the placement of automatic external defibrillators on apparatus. And whereas Chief Price oversaw the merger of Anna Maria West Manatee Fire Districts and West Manatee Fire District, now known as West Manatee Fire and Rescue District. And whereas in the recent decade, Chief Price, vaulted the district into the technological age by incorporating technology into the fire service. And whereas Chief Price has earned the Career Service Award, Hurricane Charlie Campaign Ribbon, 2004 Hurricane Ribbon, and a unit citation. And whereas after 35 years of service, Chief Price will be retiring on April 30th, 2015. Now therefore be proclaimed by the Board of County Commissioners of Manatee County, Florida, that April 21st, 2015 shall be known, designated, and set aside as Chief Andy Price Day in Manatee County, Florida, in recognition of his many contributions to our community. Adopted with a quorum present and voted this 21st day, April 2015, and of course signed by our chairman, Betsy Benak. Chief, thank you so much for all your years of service.
"35 years seems like a long time, but it seems like yesterday in 1979 when I started. And I was thinking in the audience of, you know, I know there's been a lot of changes, but I wanted to put some of those changes in perspective. Back in 1975, or 79, most of the fire departments were volunteer. And there were 4 ambulances in Manatee County back then. And Steve, could you imagine running 4 ambulances now? But we did it. We came together and we provided a service. We worked together with the city communities, and back in the early 90s created the Island Emergency Operations Center. We have made great strides in the fire service, and I see a great future. We have a lot of smart people coming through the ranks, and Tom Sousa is going to be taking over for me here in about a week. Well, he's kind of already taken over for me, but he's going to be a great asset. We got a lot of new fire chiefs that have lots of great ideas. So there's a lot of change coming ahead for our county, and especially in emergency services. And I'd like to thank you for this recognition.
Andy, I have to say it. Your parents and my parents, I've known you my entire life. Our parents hung out together at Duffy's. I knew Mr. and Mrs. Price. I've known every one of your brothers and sisters, and we're neighbors. So I've watched you in all of our years go into who you are today, and I'm so proud of you. And it's with much love that your family's all proud of you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks all for being here and for what you do.
Congratulations.
Thanks so much. Next up, we have National Arbor Day. Folks who want to come forward to have the proclamation for National Arbor Day.
It's a great honor to read the proclamation for National Arbor Day, and I currently sit as the liaison for the LMAC and attending their meetings. It's very, very informative. They're very knowledgeable and passionate for our environment and our community. And we have 3 from the LMAC board here today to accept this proclamation. Whereas in 1872, J. Sterling Morton proposed to the Nebraska Board of Agriculture that a special day be set aside for the planting of trees. And whereas this holiday, called Arbor Day, was first observed with the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska. And whereas Arbor Day is now observed throughout the nation and the world. And whereas trees can reduce the erosion of our precious topsoil by wind and water, cut heating and cooling costs, moderate the temperature, clean the air, produce oxygen, and provide a habitat for wildlife. And whereas trees are a renewable source, Glenn, a renewable source, giving us paper, wood for our homes, fuel for our fires, and countless other wood products. And whereas trees in our city or county increase property values, enhance the economic vitality of business areas, and beauty our community. And whereas trees, wherever they are planted, are a source of joy and spiritual renewal. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed by the Board of County Commissioners of Manatee County, Florida, that April 24th, 2015 shall be known, designated, and set aside as National Arbor Day in Manatee County, Florida, and all its citizens are urged to support efforts to protect our trees and woodlands and our city and county's urban forestry program, and to plant trees to promote the well-being of present and future generations and enhance our community. Adopted with a quorum present and voting this 21st day of April, 2015. Would like to say a few words?
Hey, Bill.
Thank you, Robin. Thank you, everybody. It may be true that only God can make a tree, but this Friday, Saturday. No, Friday. Mixed up. We're going to give them a little bit of help at 5 different locations, starting out at 9:30 in the morning at Anna Maria Bayfront Park, and finishing at 2 o'clock in the city of Bradenton and Palmetto at Hidden Lakes Park. We're going to be in all 3 island cities, Bradenton and Palmetto, and at each event there'll be tree planting activities, and we'll also be distributing these terrific packets which have been handed out on the dais, which give information, both printed and digital, on how to properly plant trees and palms. And these will be available for civic groups and participants who show up. And we're provided through the generosity of Keep Manatee Beautiful and also of the U.S. Forest Service through the Florida Department of Agriculture. So again, we thank the Commission for this proclamation, and I'd like to now pass the microphone to Charlie Hunsiger, who has a couple of words to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners. I want to personally thank each of the 3 members who represent their colleagues on the Environmental Lands Management and Advisory Committee, working very hard for you to review and advise on all things environment. Also, it would be less, but very appropriate to recognize Bill Boers, who spends his career saving the trees that we have and working to protect them. And also Carmine, who has done more in his career here in Manatee County to beautify our parks than I know of any individual I know. And it should not be lost on us that this is the week that we recognize the tragedy in the Gulf, the Deepwater Horizon spill, and that which brought to the Gulf of Mexico the damages that occurred. And planting trees and rebuilding our longleaf pine legacy of South Florida, rebuilding our coastal habitats is something that we can do in small measure to build the resiliency for our Gulf, working through Keep Manatee Beautiful, Keep Florida Beautiful, and all the other actions that we take. And it should not be lost on us that one tree at a time makes a difference. Your Natural Resources Department has planted over 1 million longleaf pines on DeWitt Preserve, and we're still going.
Good.
So we all work together on this, and each and every citizen. So thank you again, and thank you, members of LMAC, for your help.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much, LMAC folks. I know how hard you work on keeping Manatee beautiful. And Ingrid, you're doing a great job too. So we appreciate everything y'all are doing, and hope all those trees that you plant on Friday do well.
Yeah.
Thank you.
They usually do. Thank you.
All right, next we're going to move on to our consent agenda. Would any of the commissioners like anything pulled off of the consent agenda? Any items? Okay.
I'm on there.
Sorry. Commissioner DiSabatino?
Item number 13, I'd like to pull that to discuss that right before we discuss the item number 28, because it has to do with the funding.
The budget amendment?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else?
And I'd just like to shout out to Sherry Courier and Karen Stewart and her group, 2 projects coming forward, creating more jobs in the next 5 years. One company will create 27 new jobs over the next 5 years, and they're going to expand their infotech facility here. And another project hopefully will create 118 new jobs, relocate a regional headquarters here. So, good job. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? All right. At this time, we're going to go ahead and move on to public comment on consent agenda items only. I have Mr. Gibolina signed up for 3 items, but one of them has been pulled. So if you would hold your comments on that one, but you wanted to speak on item number 10 and item number 21. You'll have 3 minutes on each item. And if you have...
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Glenn Gibolina, citizen taxpayer, Manatee County. And as one of the commissioners said last time, if it's on the agenda, I can speak on it. So I'm going to speak on 13 as well. Well, let's start at 10. That is the appraisal comparison chart. Now, again, when the property has been devaluated, such as the port that has been devaluated by millions of dollars, such as the Pirate City from $10 million down to $6 million. So, can you explain to this citizen how this property, in less than 6 months, went to this outrageous price that we are now paying for it? I mean, I must be missing something here. And the severance is doubled, went up to $600,000. How much suffering is there doing? I don't get it. So, again, the property appraiser has been devaluating major pieces of property for the last 2 years in this county. So now the citizens of this county have the privilege of overpaying for pieces of property, just like the Bright House building and apparently just like this piece of property. So if you can explain that to this citizen, I would appreciate it. But I have not seen any justification in that type of increase. I haven't pulled the taxes on it yet, but I'm sure that would be an interesting story as well. So that's my spin on that. The school board money. I see we're pulling $235,000 out, $50,000 towards the survey. I guess I don't have a problem with that since it's been out to bid and so forth. But where's the difference going? I mean, you're pulling out, why didn't you just pull out $50,000 for the survey? You know, I don't get that. Just very confusing at times. Item 21, 10th Street. You acquired that property for taxes for $4,000. I don't know if the city wanted to do anything. I saw something along the lines that the city doesn't want it. This would be a great project for affordable housing. You've got the lot set up, probably the water and sewer's already there. It's right off of 9th Street. It's a great little project. So I guess my question is, did we throw that out to the nonprofits in the community to see if they wanted to do something there? And I think it's right by the new Wawa station. So, I mean, that property is going to increase in value. So, I mean, this is a diamond in the rough that I think that the county or nonprofit should be doing something with 118 10th Avenue East in Bradenton. I think that that should be really be looked at. Now, can I talk about the dashboard, even though that's after, or?
No, it's not on the consent
So
agenda.
I come back for that, right?
Yes, that's a report that'll be at the end of the,
And also on the 28th.
28 is on the regular agenda, so you'll be able to come, but you already spoke to 21, so you will not be able to speak to that again.
Okay, so I have to come back for the future and the sheriff. Okay. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else like to address the board on any of the items on the consent agenda only at this time? Okay, seeing no one come forward, I'll go ahead and close public comment on the consent agenda. Go ahead and take a motion for approval with the exception of item number 13, which was called.
So moved.
Second.
And then I had a,
Motion and a second by Commissioner Smith. Carol, you had a comment?
after we vote.
Okay, after we vote. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. Chair votes aye. Motion passes. Carol, you had a?
Yeah, and I can't find it now, but we got an email, I'm sure everybody read it this morning, that the original price, and somebody help me because I can't find it real fast right now, but I think the owners of this property wanted $9 million for this property. Am I right? Did I read 9 somewhere? You all read it, but anyway, it's an exorbitant amount. And we had our appraisers, and I just got to make sure that what Mr. Gibolina says doesn't stay. We have to at least clarify some of the information that's being said. But, you know, and the owner, from what this person wrote, was planning on selling this for a development, and we need this right away. So, for
You're
a
speaking to
long-term-
the eminent domain
Yes.
question,
Yes.
which, believe me, we all asked, I assume,
think we
I
all did.
asked
That was the
why
most
this
we
price
paid.
had become where it had, and the reality is the eminent domain process.
Right.
And the way our laws work, I think the way I heard it is, as soon as you say eminent domain, it means open your checkbook. Maybe county attorney could comment on the process and why we
paid what we did.
are in this situation where we have to pay such a high price.
Madam Chair, Commissioners, for starters, Florida is recognized as a staunch supporter of private property rights as among the various 50 states. Florida stands out as being a property rights-oriented state, and that is reflected in the halls of our legislature year in and year out, and is reflected specifically in chapters 73 and 74 of the Florida statutes. The government is required to pay a value that equates to the highest and best potential use of the property. You do not examine the current usage of the property. In this particular case, its current usage is agriculture and cattle grazing. The highest and best potential use of this property is a mix of both residential and commercial uses, and the government is mandated to value it as such in the eminent domain process. And then, of course, when you have a partial taking, which is the case here, although a large taking, we took 26 acres from this particular property owner on both sides of New 301. But when you have a partial taking, the statutes then require the government to pay severance damages that might be suffered by the remaining property. In this particular instance, there's no question but that the remainder property suffered severance damages on the east side of 301. The appraisers agreed that there were no severance damages on the west side of 301. The government is required to pay the cost of any improvements that might be included within the area of the take. In this case, it's a cattle grazing operation. We're coming through and interrupting fencing. We're interrupting some drainage features, all of which we have to pay to fix. We have to cure the remainder property, which means that we have to install new fencing in order to retain the cattle that is on the land. We are required to pay all reasonable experts' fees and costs and expenses incurred by the property owner. We are required to pay an attorney's fee to property owners' counsel. I can go on with the list. And it is quite true. When we open the statute books to Chapter 74, we open our checkbooks at the same time. Do we negotiate these matters? You bet we do. Do we mediate these matters? Yes, we do. Do we occasionally go to trial on these matters? Yes, we do. But it is an expensive process for the government. And oftentimes, we're forced to examine cost avoidance issues. If we go to a 12-person jury trial, and by the way, eminent domain is the only cause of action in the state of Florida, other than death penalty cases, that requires a 12-person jury trial. So if we go to a multi-day 12-person jury trial, the government is covering the tab for both sides. And so, to include experts' fees. And so there's always, without fail, a cost avoidance factor that we also need to examine. And so, respectfully, the citizen's commentary, demonstrates a profound ignorance of the law of eminent domain in the state of Florida, to be very blunt. Oftentimes we wind up paying more than we would like to pay for these properties. This particular segment is the final leg that we lack in this particular segment of 44th Avenue, and I expect that we'll be going out for bids very promptly to build this particular segment of 44th Avenue. So it's going to be a wonderful public project, a wonderful east-west corridor that will connect Lakewood Ranch and beyond, virtually, all the way to our beaches. And so it's a wonderful public project. Unfortunately, it costs a lot of money to get there. I'm sorry for the long-winded
No,
explanation.
thank you, appreciate that,
was very
because,
good.
believe me, we ask the questions, because it is a concern, and, 44th Avenue is a project that's been in the works for a long time, and building think of the last time we built a new major east-west corridor. Other than the state roads, we really don't have any, so this has been an expensive but extremely needed parallel reliever to those roads. Carolyn?
Can you clarify with me, because you were here, I don't know if it was before you, Betsy, but how long have we been working on this road? Because I know it's been years before I was in office. Does anybody have any clue?
Well, Commissioners, I can tell you this. In my role as a former assistant county attorney, I handled all of this county's eminent domain work. I can tell you that I acquired a little piece of property at 44th Avenue and 9th Street East by eminent domain when I was a young assistant in this office in roughly 1990.
So we've been working
So
on
we were acquiring properties for this project by eminent domain as early as the late 80s and the early 90s. And, fortunately, we've been able to acquire some properties by negotiated sale and purchase. We don't have to exercise our eminent domain powers. That's always a good thing. But when we have to, we have to. And so, this project is one that's been in the works for decades. I think it's been on our capital improvement plan, Ed, for decades.
Yes.
And in terms of, I've worked on a lot of road projects in my time as both an assistant county attorney and now in my more supervisory role as county attorney. This is this is probably the most significant major new roadway undertaking that I've been involved in, dating back to my time as an assistant county attorney starting back in 1987. So it's a big project.
Thank
And,
you.
and you've seen, Carol, I mean, you asked about it. I mean, I remember working on projects like the YMCA, Lakewood Ranch, the LECOM, Lakewood Ranch. When all of those projects were being worked on, the right-of-way was being provided for 44th. So again, going back, what Lakewood Ranch is celebrating its 20th anniversary. I mean, in a new community like that, because it's on our comprehensive plan, you plan for the future right-of-way. And they get right-of-way impact fee credits for the donation of that right-of-way, which saves the county quite a bit of money. Don't need to go through the eminent domain process, so it's a very significant difference when you can get the right-of-way that way. Okay, at this time, we're done with consent agenda, so I'm going to go ahead and move on to public comments on future agenda items. Is there anyone that would like to address the board on any future agenda items? Anything you'd like to see on a future agenda, not on this agenda, but would like to address the board? Please come forward, state your name for the record, and you'll have 3 minutes.
I'm Philip Brown. I'm the president of the United Way of Manatee County and a resident. I know I'm preaching to the choir, but simply want to bring to your attention, I'd like to talk to you about Alice, but I'm going to talk to you about a related issue on behalf of our community, and that has to do with our infrastructure that is so vital to the future of our community. And by infrastructure, we were just talking about roads. That's part of it. However, I want to talk to you about our school system, specifically about the district, but I include in that the larger educational system, including pre-K through college. Our residents are telling us that having the preeminent school district in the state of Florida is their aspiration. They also tell us that having a vital, growing, and successful school district is imperative so that we can attract and attract employers and keep employers who are growing, so that we can have a workforce, so we can have a community that causes snowbirds to want to be here. It's at the base of what's needed for our community. So I urge you to continue as leaders to be able to focus on the future and these big issues, and find a way in your capacity as policymakers, budget setters, spenders of money, to help our school district have the chance to become the preeminent school district. And that's going to require some risk-taking on your part, because we're not financially stable. And if our school district is worrying about how we're going to build new schools, how we're going to pay off our debt, how we're going to change our systems and keep the doors open, they are not focused on the educational process, the need for paying teachers, recruiting teachers, and engaging the community. So I encourage you to continue to focus, to do what you can to ensure that our community can help ourselves, to help our school district get on the pathway to becoming the preeminent school district in the state of Florida. So thank you for that. I do know I'm preaching to the choir.
Thank you. Great timing. Anyone else who'd like to address the board on an item that is not on this agenda, but you'd perhaps like to see on a future agenda? Please state your name for the record, and you'll have 3 minutes.
I clarify this first. I want to talk about school impact fees, but it doesn't deal with item number 28.
Well, that's cutting the line kind of close, so since we have an item to discuss, but go ahead and talk generally about school impact fees.
Okay, thank you. This is information that I think, my name is Edward Goff. I am a resident of Manatee County. This is information that I think that the school board really needs to know, because there's been some misinformation and a lot of misunderstanding about the school impact fees and exactly what has happened and what is legal and what isn't legal. First, you should know that no teacher or school administrator would ever refuse any funding for the schools. It just doesn't happen. I was a teacher for 40 years, and not once did my school board, my principals, anybody ever refuse any money. So it's not a natural thing to do. Any person who requested suspension of school impact fees, whether the superintendent or member of the school board, did not have the best interest of our students in mind when they did. So they did not correctly represent the people of Manatee County. I think everybody in Manatee County would agree with that. Why give away education, as the last speaker just pointed out? Education is one of the most important things that this county does, is to educate our youth. And it also helps attract people to the community. The school board has no legal authority to suspend or impose school impact fees. That is not something that the school board has authority to do. So you can't blame the school board. They may make recommendations, but they do not have the authority to make or suspend any kind of impact fees. School impact fees, by definition, the suspension of the collection of school impact fees ended on July 27th, 2013. I missed number 4. By definition, a suspension is a temporary condition. Temporary condition. And when it's over, it's over. When the suspension ended on July 27, 2013, it was over. School impact fees should have been resumed the next day on July 28, 2013. So the county should immediately resume collection of school impact fees. The county should also retroactively collect school impact fees back to 28 July 2013. Florida Statute 163.31801 requires that when a county or municipality adopts an impact fee by ordinance, it complies with certain rules in Section 3 of that statute. Since this is the resumption of collection of school impact fees and not an adoption or increase in fees, those rules do not apply. Manatee County should...
Thank you, sir. Your time is up, and we are going to address your issues, and I'm so glad that you're here so that we have an opportunity to address these issues, because I've asked the county attorney to specifically address these, because you've been a frequent commenter about these issues, so I'm really glad we have an opportunity to set the record.
Thank you for letting me speak, and I'm passionate about this issue as an educator for 40 years. And I think that Manatee County is in violation of the law, and I'd like to see that change. Thank you.
We will address this. Anyone else who'd like to address the board on a future agenda item, please come forward.
She can pass them. We can pass them down.
Yeah, if you want to
We
just
can
give them
pass
the
them
clerk, the clerk will be glad to pass them out for you.
Chair, are we
Thank you.
talking about an issue that we're talking about now? Because you just said we weren't, and now...
Let's just wait until we finish public comment. This is on future agenda items only.
I have several, so we're going to start at 10 minutes.
Future.
Future.
3 minutes, and we'll see when we'll go. Yeah, give them 10 minutes so we don't go over the 10-minute limit. And you
Morning.
cannot address anything that we've already addressed specifically.
Okay. My name is Glenn Giblina. I'm a taxpayer of Manatee County. There was a quote by John Adams: "Facts are stubborn things, and whatever may be our wishes, our indications, or the dictates of our passion, they cannot alter the state of facts or evidence." So, the integrity of this board, and by the way, I'm going to back up to Mr. Palmer, on the eminent domain. Maybe we should have bought it last year at $2 million, and we would have saved
Please,
$1
sir,
million.
we've already addressed that issue. Please do
Well,
not
I mean,
address that again.
Should
We've
be
already
able, I should be
closed
able
that.
to. Okay, so.
Future agenda items only.
All right. Well, I'm going to talk about the integrity of this board. Here's the problem that I have. When you tell the public and the television public that you're going to do something, and then you don't do it, or you alter it, there's a lack of trust there, and I don't appreciate it. So I'm going to give you one example here. Let's see if it can come up. No, it won't. Okay. So the point being is that on March 10th, you told the public, and Mr. Huntsinger made a time certain for April 7th that we would discuss the Bright House building. And of course, you didn't do that. What you did do is you bumped it up. So my problem, I want you to listen to this.
Chairman, point of order.
Yes, sir.
What is the future agenda?
Yeah,
item
please
being
ask us
addressed here?
tell us what the future agenda item is that you'd like to address.
The future agenda item says that you're going to put something on April 7th, and you didn't do it. That's a crack in the integrity of this board. So you went ahead and you pushed through the Bright House deal to the 24th. You told no one. And Betsy, you even said that it was going to be pushed to the 7th. So on the 24th, I find it a problem that not one person, not one board member, not legal counsel, not the administrator stepped up to the plate and said, we better hold off 2 weeks because we just told the public 2 weeks ago that we're going to hear this on the 7th. But you didn't. You rammed it right through on the 24th. That's the problem I have with this board. When you say you're going to do something and you don't do it, I have a problem with that. That lacks integrity on this board. So let's talk about future agenda. How about taxes? Okay? This board, through negotiations with the council, this board's council, the port's council, the school board's council, and the tax collector council, waived tens of thousands of dollars in taxes that were due, that were not due. And I'm going to give you just two examples. Kindler Morgan, they're a $130 billion company.
Is this something?
This is future, this is taxes. This is,
If it's
no,
Port Authority,
no,
it doesn't relate to this board.
It does because this board approved to waive those fees. This board
It's not a Port
approved.
Authority meeting, is it?
No, this is a board, right here.
Kinder Morgan does pay
The Board of County Commissioners in Manatee waived these fees, and I'd like to know why, on a $130 billion industry. 2012, they paid $17,000, okay? In 2014, you waived $846,000 of taxpayer money that should have been collected that you didn't do. The school board doesn't need the money. Who doesn't need the money? You guys made a special assessment in 2008. That whole tax base out at the port is a disaster. Del Monte, they've been in business 120 years. Guess what? In 2011, we got $50,000 from them. $50,000 continually. It's a multi-million-dollar company, okay? 2013, not a dime. How can that be? I went to the tax appraiser, and I talked to him for about an hour. I said, obviously, this is a clerical error. He said, oh, no, we're not. We're forgiving all those taxes. So I would like to know why. Not only 1 year, 2 years. 2014, another 50 grand not going into the general fund. I would really like to know how that can be. How all those taxes out at the port, we're just kind of giving them away. That policy bothers me. Yet, you know, here's Federal Marine. They were paying 40 grand, and the last time they paid was 2008. And they're on your tenant list, and they ain't paid a dime in 7 years. I don't get it. You're going to have to explain to this citizen that mess out there. Yet on the other hand, you get other people that pay, and I will say this for the fire department: on all these taxes, the fire department did not Yale. Florida Rock pays. My friends at FP&L, they paid us 40 grand. Transit Marina, they paid 75,000. So you have some tenants out there that are paying their rightful due, and you got multi-billion companies that aren't paying a dime. So I have a problem with that. And by the way, I guess I must have pushed some buttons because I found that on my car when I parked over there. And by the way, I'm parked over there again today, so we'll see what happens. The other issue I have, and I've got 3 minutes left.
Property appraiser, I guess.
Yeah, that's from the property appraiser, so I guess they don't want me there.
No.
In any event, let's future agenda items. Let's go back to the judicial center on the lease. Are you guys breaking the law when
This is not a future agenda item. This is an item that we've already taken action
we
on.
broke the law?
And
I
we're
wanna
not
ask
going to
counsel.
reconsider
It's not-
an item because we can't take them out of order. We have to only address future agenda items at this particular time.
If there has been fraud upon the people and and it was done in the past and your homework wasn't done, then you're breaking the law. Now, a future agenda item might be a civil lawsuit. I've never gotten any answers. My question is, there was a 60-day termination. Mr. Palmer has not answered any of my questions. The administrator has not answered any of my questions. So, I got a problem with that. And the other future agenda item, I heard Carol said, the renewable energy, it's not feasible. Carol, you're just talking to the wrong people. As far as I'm concerned, I send you cutting-edge stuff every day on renewable energy. It's pathetic that this county does not have an energy policy. Vanessa, I just wanted to address your conference room that I wanted for the grand jury room. I'll give you a pamphlet on that for you. First of all, the grand jury is secret. Why would we want a first floor with windows, floor-to-roof windows for the grand jury? And it's 25 people. It's secret. So when you said we need it for the grand jury, you couldn't be farther from the truth. If anything, we'd want underground garage and take the elevators the judges take up. So that's my point on that. This is a right to be up here. It's not a privilege. I pay taxes. I give back to the community. I give blood every 56 days. I was at Harley Davidson Saturday giving blood. I'm engaged with this community. I met Vern Buchanan last Monday for 45 minutes, one-on-one. I am engaged in this community. I have a right to be up here, probably more than most citizens. So you may just think I'm just listening to myself speak. I am not. I'm bringing out deficiencies in this county. I'm bringing out blatant misjustice. And you know what? If you're going to forgive taxes, how about mine? I'm going to leave it out here. I pay $270 a year. So maybe you want to pick that up because I've given you some great ideas in the last year. And I know what you're thinking. What are we getting aggravated for $5 a week? Any event. This board has some serious problems. And when the citizens don't get the answer from council or the administrator, I will be relentless on getting these answers, future agenda or not. So I seriously doubt if you'll pick up the tax. So I'll withdraw that $200. I think I can handle it. This board really needs to take a look at itself and its taxes and the way it's been doing business. And I'll be back in 2 weeks.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else who'd like to address the board on a future agenda item, please come forward and state your name. You get 3 minutes per item. A maximum of 10 minutes is based on our rules. Anyone? Okay, seeing nobody come forward, we're done with public comment. I have a couple commissioners that want to speak. Commissioner Baugh.
I just wanted to address something that Mr. Gibolina said. He said that in some ways he had more of a right to speak to this board than other citizens, and that is just not the case. He has no more right than anyone else to speak. Every citizen in Manatee County has that right.
Thank you. And County Attorney, you're on the board.
Yes, Madam Chair, I was just going to make the simple point that legitimately impaneled grand juries meet in secret.
Ooh.
The operative phrase there is legitimately impaneled.
Thank you.
Mr. Gibolina's common law grand jury is not a legitimately impaneled grand jury. Thank you.
And, Mr. Administrator, the issue on the tax bills, we have no ability that I know of to waive taxes except for in the economic development incentive that we adopted. And I do not believe we have ever voted to grant those tax incentives. Nothing has come before us. So as to what the property appraiser, how they appraise the value of the property, that does not have anything to do with us. So I'm a little confused by the comments. Perhaps you could.
That would be correct. You have adopted a tax abatement program, but we have yet to use that tax abatement program in our economic development program. So the questions that, the issues that he posed are baffling to me. I can take a look at whatever it is that he proffers, but this board has yet to waive any taxes under the tax abatement ordinance that you adopted.
Yeah, so I'm confused by that, but thank you for looking into that. Any other comments from board members? Commissioner Whitmore?
Well, I have to, you know, parking that's restricted to certain businesses is not right. And I don't know why you keep doing it, and you should pay the ticket if you are doing it, Glenn, because I know you've gone up in the employee parking lot on your motorcycle, and that's not right. No other citizen does it, and I know you think it's your right because you pay taxes, but so does every other citizen in this county. We have many employees, including the state's attorney in this building, that have to find a parking place that work over at the courthouse. And to just blatantly disregard the law, you know it's restricted. It says it, and you just said you're going to do it again. And you know you do a lot of volunteering, you do a lot of good, but you gotta. You know, this other rogue stuff that you do, I just am disappointed because you do good stuff in the community, and you know that. But just to blatantly do this and show it on TV, you know, you're probably going to get a ticket, so.
Okay, thank you. And I also want to recognize that we have school board member Charlie Kennedy in the audience, so thank you for attending today.
Thanks for
Look forward
being
to
here.
hearing from you. Okay. At this point, we're going to move on to our advertised public hearings. We have a presentation upon request. If anyone, do we need to swear people in for this or not? Is it quasi-judicial?
It's a development agreement.
I believe it is quasi-judicial.
It's quasi-judicial.
I think we need to swear folks in if they'd like to speak.
Do you swear or affirm that the factual statements and factual representations which you're about to present to this board will be truthful and accurate? Thank you.
So this is item number 27, LDA 14-03, local development agreement for Rao Ventures LLC, the Aviary at Rutland Ranch. And this is a presentation upon request. Is there anyone on our board that would like a presentation on this?
This is the second hearing on this.
Okay. So second hearing on this, and so without any requests for a presentation, I'm just going to go ahead and open it up for public comment. Is there anyone who would like to make a public comment regarding this request? Okay. Seeing no one come forward, I probably didn't need to swear you all in, but seeing no one come forward, I'll go ahead and close public comment. Do we have any discussion from the board? Commissioner Bussell?
Yes, I'd just like to comment that I believe that this is the first LDA that we have processed in light of our master utility plan and the procedure that is being implemented in this LDA. Am I correct on that, or?
Another one.
I think we've done others, actually.
Done a couple now.
Couple now.
Good morning. For the record, Clark Davis, Transportation Planning Division Manager, and I have been sworn. To answer Commissioner Bussel's question, we have done a few others with alternate wastewater connections. The ones that come to mind include the villages of Amazon South and the Willow Walk development over at Ellington, Gillette, and Mendoza.
Thank you.
Okay. And Commissioner DiSabatino.
Yes, and creative the way you have this all worded for different scenarios, but on the record, just to make sure that they're doing this on their own free will, at their own free will, and they're not being coerced in any way, shape, or form. So they're voluntarily entering this, and this says so, but I just like it on record.
I believe Mr. McGuire is here representing, and he can address that.
Commissioners, my name is Hugh McGuire. I have been sworn representing Row Ventures, LLC, and Mr. John Faulkner. Yes, to answer your question, it is voluntary. He has already executed the agreement, and we've been working with Mr. Clegg, Mr. Palmer's office. We appreciate their help. Any other questions, we'd be glad to answer them.
Thank you.
Okay. I have no one else up on the board. What is the pleasure of the board?
Move to approve.
The recommended motion.
Second that motion, Madam
You got a
Chair.
motion and a second, 'cause we had a tie for the motion. So motion and a second, motion by Commissioner Bussell, second by Commissioner Baugh. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Chair votes aye, motion carries. Thank you. All right. Thank you for being here today and being patient. Next up, we have on our regular agenda, we have the interlocal agreement with the school board to provide for an impact fee study. And during this presentation, I would like to have the county attorney address Mr. Goff questions, because I think there's been so much misinformation shared via a blog. And unfortunately, like a moth to a flame, I read that blog. It drives me crazy. So I'm so glad we have the opportunity to set the record straight today. Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. Dan Slant from the County Administrator's Office. And as I believe the board knows, state law requires that impact fees be updated periodically and a study be done to reflect more recent information. County is currently in process of initiating this periodic update of all the county fees, impact fees. And I think as the board is also aware, there's not been a school impact fee imposed since 2009 at the beginning of the downturn.
Point of order. Item number 13 is we have to
We'll do
vote
that
on that
afterwards, okay?
Can you vote on the money after?
No.
You have to do the funding first?
No, I think we can,
Okay.
I think we
Okay.
can do it. Thank you.
Have to vote for it.
Okay. And in discussions between school administration and county administration, the school board also expressed a desire to do a new school impact fee study so that they could potentially impose a school impact fee once again. And since we were both wanting to do a new impact fee study at the same time, we both thought there were good reasons from an efficiency and other reasons to contract with one consultant and each pay for our respective portions of that study. And previous school impact fee studies have been directly contracted by the school board. This is a little different, and that's the reason for the interlocal agreement today. This interlocal agreement just provides the framework for how we contract for the studies, how the cost for the school study will be paid to the county, and then the process for bringing forward the education impact fee study once it's completed. And this agreement was approved by the school board at their last meeting last Tuesday, and we recommend approval by the board today. So this is basically a ministerial thing to provide that framework for how we do this as a joint process. Mr. Clegg was going to do, even before citizens' comments, a little bit to clarify some of the different roles and responsibilities of the board and the school board as it relates to the imposition of an impact fee. So.
Thank you.
Good morning, Madam Chair, Commissioners. For the record, I'm Bill Clegg, Assistant County Attorney
and I'm going to touch on a few things. First, I'm going to talk generally about school impact fees, and then briefly describe how this interlocal works, and then talk about the process going forward. So unlike other impact fees, the school impact fee requires significant intergovernmental cooperation between the school board and the county and any cities that participate in it. There's a very clear division of roles and responsibilities. So the county has jurisdiction over land use permitting. We're the only ones that can issue building permits in the unincorporated areas. Only the cities can do that within their boundaries. That gives us the ability to charge and collect the fee. But in determining what that fee is, the school board has to provide us a lot of the information and the parameters of what legally can be charged, because they own the infrastructure. We do not. They set level of service, they determine the needs, they determine the schedule of what's going to be built and when, and they determine what it costs. And a lot of state law, very complicated state law, goes into those calculations. It's not an easy thing for them to do because they are burdened with a great many statutes and regulations in making those decisions. All of that has to go into an impact fee study. Like every other impact fee, you have to have a study to support the fee, and you have to stay on top of the study. It requires the full participation of the school board to do a legally defensible study, because we don't have that data, we don't have all the processes that they use to decide capacity, future need, future costs. Just like they couldn't do a study of the impact fees for Manatee County's roads, we can't do one for Manatee County's schools without the school board being involved. They don't own our roads, we don't own their schools. So you can't do it independently of them. It requires cooperation of the two entities. Both have to be willing to proceed, not just one, in order to do a study. So, by 2009, when the school board called for suspending the fee, they called it a moratorium. I personally didn't like that language, but that's what they called it. The last study that had been done, which had been done by them, not by Manatee County, because that's normally what happens. We've stepped up here and said, we'll help, but normally it's the school board that does a study. By then, the data was stale, because you had an 04 study looking at 03 data. You had a crazy housing market and a crazy construction market. Costs went up and down very radically. So we were expressing in 09, the data we have in that study is not reliable. They need a new study if they want to keep their fee in place or reinstate it. That was true for all of our fees as well. It is true under the Florida Impact Fee Act, which applies whether you suspend or call it something else, but it's also been true under the case law long before that act was in place. We have to stay on top of all the fees. They must be periodically studied, or you risk the fee becoming legally unenforceable, which is where we have been on the school impact fee, in my legal opinion. And I've got quite a bit of experience, I must say, in dealing with impact fees. There's a few lawyers in the state that do. There's not that many of us. I still don't think of myself as an expert because it's a very difficult and complicated area. But I do know something about it, and I think we were on solid ground in 09 in saying you got to have a new study if you want to restore this fee. That's why the ordinance said that from the beginning. So this interlocal agreement will put that process in place. As Dan said, we already have a consultant that we're close to contracting with to get our studies going, because we need to. We need to study our own fees right now. We're at the point where in another year, we're going to run into the same problem if we don't restudy our fees. And the county's done a good job of staying on top of its fees. We will add to that scope of work the school impact fee study. The school board will reimburse us for the cost. More importantly, the school board staff will give us the data and the analysis and the feedback that's critical to putting that study together. Impact fee studies are a lot of work. They're not something that just gets thrown together quickly. There's a great deal of data that goes into them. They are thick documents with a lot of numbers, a lot of information, and there's a process of going back and forth between the consultant and the staff to make sure that everything is correct and sound and consistent with experience. It takes a great deal of effort. So the idea that we could have just thrown one together on our own is very, very dubious indeed. Then when the study's done, the school board will have to take action to say, we need this fee in order to meet growth needs. Without that as well, you don't have a legal basis at the county to levy the fee. Because if they're not going to tell you they need the money for growth, at some point we could have to stand in front of a judge to defend the fee. Without a statement from the school board that the fee is needed, we wouldn't be able to do it. So all of those things take place, and then it can come back to you for consideration in the form of an ordinance to reinstate or adopt a new school impact fee. So I'd like to make a couple of comments about the process going forward, but if you have questions about what I've said so far, maybe this is a good time to pause and ask, because there may be some more things you'd like me to clarify.
Well, I think that, and I specifically asked you to provide the information, going back, looking at this question of how these impact fees were put on hold. And you provided a letter that's dated June 17, 2013, from Mike Penley, Executive Planner at the school board, who states in the record that as a result of stalled student population growth and ample capacity, the school board requested that the BOCC adopt moratoriums for collection of educational facility impact fees on 2 occasions. The first moratorium was adopted for the period from July 27, 2009 to July 27, 2011. The second moratorium is from July 27, 2011 through July 27, 2013. So pretty clear to me that the school board, which had the authority, requested that the board have this, and you didn't like the word moratorium, but stop
Did not.
the
No, I didn't
collection
like
of
it at all.
impact fees, and that was
That really
within
put
their
us in the
purview to do
position,
so.
at that point, I would have had to advise you, if you wanted to continue to collect them, that you can't.
Right.
Because there's no way I could defend that in court when the school board says, we don't need the money anymore. Developers, I did some research over the weekend because I remember a lot of lawsuits during the boom over school impact fees. 6 counties were sued over school impact fees during the building boom. Broward, Polk, Osceola, Lee, I don't remember the last 2, Orange, and Volusia. It's a very litigious impact fee, far more than the others. And so the chances of getting a challenge when you levy a school impact fee are quite real, and so you have to take it, you have to be very careful to make sure you're on solid legal ground.
And then again, the school board taking action in 2014 to continue this
vote again on it,
extension.
yeah.
So there seems to be, even though certain folks in the community, for some reason, want to say that the suspension of impact fees was due solely by the county commission's action, this was a request that was continually presented by the school board, and we followed their request, is how I would.
And the advice of the office was, you can't get the fee going again without a study. Even if they hadn't asked us to do it. We had told them we had to have a study and we had to have your participation. Now, the county and the school board took different tacks in '09. I was here in '06. I think, Carol, you came on the board right after we had just raised impact fees to record highs in Manatee County. That was a cost-driven decision. You couldn't get concrete. It was all going to China. Land for right-of-way was incredibly expensive, and everybody was starting to really worry we weren't keeping up. So the studies that we did showed some pretty high numbers, and it was controversial. It was really controversial, but we did it. But then in '09, '08, everything crashed. So the county adjusted its roads fee by 50%, reflecting reduced costs. The school board took a different approach. They said, we have flat enrollment, so we're going to go to 0. Now, that's a policy decision that they get to make. We don't get to make it for them. Once they did that, we really had to follow it. We can't say, oh no, we're going to take it to something else when they say we don't need the money. It puts us in a tough spot if we get a legal challenge. So that's how it kind of played out. I do have a couple of more remarks, but if there are, we need to remember going forward that the role of the county, and I understand there are people that care a lot about what's going on at the school board. I'm one of them. I got 2 sons enrolled in Manatee County schools since kindergarten. I get it. But our role here is to regulate land use permitting. And that is a limited role, and that doesn't put us in the position of then also taking on the fiscal difficulties facing the school board as part of our impact fee analysis. I'm going to have to advise you to be careful not to go down that path because we need a clean record. This office doesn't decide whether or not to initiate a study. That's up to you, and if you approve this agreement, that's where we're going. But once you do that, it is our job to make it a legally defensible process and record, so that if at the end you choose to adopt a new school impact fee, we are on solid legal ground. And that means staying focused on the technical merits of the impact fee process, objectively, and following the consultant's lead in terms of how you handle the issues, and not allowing it to devolve into a discussion of all the other difficulties facing the school system, which I respect are important issues, and you may want to talk about them in other contexts, but I would discourage you from rolling that into your impact fee process. And really the same is true for school concurrency. It's a related issue. I know the board is anxious to hear about that from the school system, and they're putting that together, but it is a separate discussion and a separate process, separate ordinances, which are enforceable and on the books right now. Don't need to do anything to make sure that those are being enforced. You just need to find out what the school board's doing. But it is not the same thing as the impact fee process, which needs to be handled with a lot of professional discipline to be in good legal standing when it's finished. So that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Whitmore's first up.
Billy, you have answered some of these, but I wrote these down, and I want you just to answer them as to the best of your knowledge. And the reason why is because some of the people here are actually writing letters to the editor, and they're totally incorrect, and I just want everything clear so they know, everybody knows what our role is, and you've given a good history. First of all, does the county charge impact fees, and are we collecting them? Manatee County impact fees.
We are collecting on our 4 fees: roads, parks, law enforcement, and public safety, and our facility investment fees really are impact fees,
Right.
and we're collecting those as well.
And we are collecting 50%?
Yes, ma'am.
Right, okay.
No, we're collecting at 100% of our fees.
Oh, I'm sorry, okay, we are collecting,
Yeah,
sorry.
we are at
Okay, we're
100%.
sitting here as the BOC, correct?
Yes.
Do we have any authority, what's our role with the school board?
We have to work in cooperation with them.
Do we have any legal authority over them?
No.
Okay.
No, we do not.
Say that one more time.
No, we do not. And
Okay.
they will remind us of that if we attempt to behave as though we do. They will.
Yes.
Their lawyers will be quick to agree with me on that.
Okay. Has the county committed any unlawful acts regarding this issue?
No, ma'am, absolutely not.
For any reason, why should do you see any reason why the BOCC should not approve what's on the agenda today, legally?
From a legal standpoint, no. Our office is, but we drafted the agreement, and from a legal standpoint, we recommend that you do. It's a policy decision whether you want to proceed with a school impact fee.
Would there be?
That's not my role to tell you what to do.
Would there be any legal ramifications if we didn't approve it?
Yes, because I think if we don't move to do something about this school impact fee study, we ought to just repeal that language from the code altogether. It's overdue to just come out.
Okay. And my last question, would it be irresponsible of the BOCC not to approve this? That's subjective. I just
Yeah,
had to
I
get that in.
can't answer that.
I know.
I'm not running for office, nor do
Legally.
I ever intend to. It's a rough
I'm
job.
not either,
So I'd rather not answer that. I mean, that's for you to all to
Legally.
decide.
Well, okay.
Legally,
Thank
no.
you.
And I'm going to take a little privilege here. Carol said something that concerned me, that I found was wrong, so I'm going to ask the county administrator to address it. Carol said we reduced the impact fees to 50%. My understanding is that happened in 2009, and then in 2011, there was an impact fee study, and the impact fees were, I'm looking at the county administrator.
They were about right.
If you could please clarify that, because I know how some people are. They hear parts of things and run with it. So please correct it for the record.
Right amount.
We were in, you've got to go back in time to the point where people were unemployed, we were reducing the size of government, there was a crisis in the economy. We reduced the impact fee by 50% because there's 2 major components to the transportation impact fee, and we reduced only the transportation impact fee.
Right.
We reduced it by 50% because the 2 major components of a transportation impact fee are the cost per lane mile and the number of lane miles you propose to build.
Right.
Both of those were reduced in the marketplace substantially. There were very, very few new homes being built, and thus the need for new roadways was reduced. And the cost of building a lane mile in this community and in the state of Florida was reduced dramatically. So we reduced the fee and immediately proceeded with a study to verify that that was correct. When the study was completed, we brought it to the board, and it confirmed, the study confirmed that the reduction in the fee was appropriate.
Correct.
So the fee we are charging today was documented by a study.
And this office, the county attorney's office, insisted on that study. I mean, for the same reason that I explained before regarding the school impact fee. We got to 2010, 2011, and the concern was we've done a 50% cut based upon our understanding of where costs are. It turned out to be on the mark, which impressed me because I wasn't sure when they did it, but it turned out to be right. But we said, look, you got to keep the studies up to date, even though you're pretty comfortable your numbers are in the right place in order to have an enforceable and defensible fee.
Right. Okay.
And if I might finish, and we know today that the demand has picked up again. We know, based on our recent Fort Hamer project and the roadways leading up to the bridge, that the cost of a lane mile has gone up. It justifies and requires an update to the study because the cost component has gone up and the number of lane miles required, we believe, has gone up, and it justifies and requires a new study, and that's why we're proceeding with a new one today.
So that happened in 2009.
Well, the study that was done in 11, we reduced it by 50% in 09, and then we restudied them in 11. And we had to tweak.
Bill, let me
Some impact fees were changed in 2000.
The study was completed and adopted by the board in 11.
Yes.
The study was commissioned immediately after we reduced the fee, but it takes a while to get one of these things done, and so.
I'm thinking of adoption dates.
Yeah, and then it
because
came
the
to the board.
study is adopted into the ordinance. It's referenced in a recital. It's very much a part of the legal record. I mean, I think for people who haven't been through the process, without that study, you can't adopt the ordinance. It's an exhibit and an attachment, and the consultant has to stand here and give you the testimony that everything's accurate and reasonably reflects the rough proportionality standard, all the legal issues that go into an impact fee.
Okay, and I'm going from memory, and if I could just clarify, 2011, my recollection is there was some tweaking to some of the impact fees.
That's correct.
Some of them were raised. Some of them weren't, because I remember being part of the discussion of the impact fees on the outside world.
The way to explain that.
Were raised at that time.
The way to explain that to the public is that the impact fee is applied by category to various land uses. So overall, the 50% number for roads was correct, but some of our land uses, say multifamily versus single family or commercial versus multifamily, were adjusted slightly upward or downward to meet the numbers in the study. They're very detailed studies that apply on a use-specific basis and give you a different number for each different category of use.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next up, I have Commissioner Ball.
Yay. Okay, so, Bill, just to go over a couple of things, I want to make sure I'm correct on this. We have not ignored impact fees, the county I'm speaking of, since '09. We looked at them again in '11, and we have stayed on top of it. Is there a Florida statute that says how often we have to do? Is it a certain length of time, or is it just something where we try to stay in front of it so that we're not putting ourselves in a...
We have interpreted it with a rule of thumb of 5 years. It's 163-3180-01, the Florida Impact Fee Act, and it says the best available data. I've always read that as kind of codifying what most land use lawyers felt was needed anyway. When you got a study that was more than 5 years old, you started to wonder, is that data still good, particularly if there'd been a lot of market movement, if things had gone up and down drastically, where you might have data that's 5 or 6 years old from a very different set of costs and growth parameters than you have today.
No, sir.
Oh.
No, sir, you please do not get to comment till public comment. I will open public comment, and you will have an opportunity to comment.
No.
No, sir. No, sir. You do not until public comment is to be heard. Thank you. You will get your opportunity to comment on this. Everything that you've heard, you will get your chance to comment during public comment. Thank you. We're not done with our procedures yet. You'll get your chance then. Thank you. You may be able to make a statement, whatever you would like when you get your opportunity to. Next up, Commissioner
I'm not
Bustle.
finished.
Sir,
I'm not done yet.
Sir, you have to take your turn and wait per our procedures, otherwise you won't be able to speak.
I'm not done.
Sorry,
I'm
Commissioner
sorry, I'm
Vaught?
not done. Yes, a couple of more things, Bill, if you don't mind. I've had a lot of people talking about this, as you know. I've talked to you about it, and Mickey. Some people are saying that there should be a special assessment on those that were not charged school impact fees when they bought their new homes, when they had them built. That is not something that the county would be involved in. Is that something the school board could look at, or is that even something that could be legal?
I don't think you could do it legally.
Okay.
I don't think you
That's
could do
what
it.
I was thinking too, but I wanted to hear you say it. Okay. One more thing. Oh. Some people have also said that an impact fee is a tax. And Bill, I'm just going to read this. I got it from the county attorney. An impact fee is a fee imposed by local government on a new or proposed development project to pay for all or a portion of the cost of providing public services as required by the new development. It's basically paying for growth. Impact fees are founded in the local government's police powers, not its power of taxation. An impact fee is not a tax. Use of impact fees is restricted to capital improvements. Typical uses are the construction of roads, parks, libraries, and schools. Impact fees are approved by the state statutes and by the court. I think we've pretty much covered everything. I thank you for your assistance on this matter. There's been a lot of inaccuracies out there.
The Florida Supreme Court has ruled on precisely that issue, that there is a distinction between an impact fee and a tax.
And for the public and a lot of my constituents, I just wanted to ask a lot of the questions that they were coming to me with. So, thank you.
Commissioner Bustle.
At the risk of, once again, beating this horse who's lying down and writhing on the ground, I'd like to say and reiterate that Manatee County never suspended transportation impact fees.
Nope.
We never did.
That's true.
Even though some people are adamant in saying that we did.
It's orchestrated.
It didn't happen. We cut them in half based on our best estimate of what the need was for impact fees for transportation at that time. And then when we did the study to follow up, we found that at that 50% level, we were right on or close to being right on to what they should be. So I'm saying it a different way, but I think it's important that some of these people that insist on distorting the truth understand, maybe we can say it a different way that finally will get through to them. The other thing that I wanted to clarify is that Manatee County can't arbitrarily levy impact fees on the school board or force them to collect impact fees. Is that correct?
That's correct. And we don't have the authority to make them participate in a study any more than they have the authority to make us do a study of our roads.
Right.
It just doesn't work that way.
And once we have a study, only upon their request do we act on their behalf.
We need them on the record stating that they need the money in order to be able to defend the fee.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Smith.
Yes, Madam Chair. A lot of time when we approve development and land use projects, we have testimony from residents saying that the school is overcrowded by 300, 400, 500 students, and you can't approve any development because there's a shortage of rooms. What is the responsibility of the Board of County Commission?
Well, Commissioner Smith, that is a separate issue of school concurrency. And I would like us to address that in a separate process. I understand we're working to have the school board come in and talk to us about that. But the short answer is that it works the same way as roads under 163, 3180 Florida statutes. The legislature has built-in language that says if there's a shortage of capacity, they can be required to pay their proportionate fair share mitigation. But it is not a basis to refuse to approve a development under that statute.
Okay.
And I think it is important that we do keep the issues separate because what we have is the school board has asked to participate in this study. The school board has already publicly, as we know, stated they have financial problems in funding schools, so we're reacting to that. I think it's important that we keep that separate, but as we talked about in our workshop, we have many questions about how the school board calculates capacity, and we're going to get answers to those questions. But I really think it's important that we keep this issue of the impact fee study, as our county attorney has told us, because it is so sensitive in terms of legalities, that we keep this totally separate, not muddy the waters. So I would ask you all to do that, please. Mr. Hunsaker, you're on the board.
Thank you. Bill, I need some help with this one. There's one principle that in impact fee world, maybe it's in law, case law, called the dual rational nexus test, that states that the payer of the fee must be the recipient of the benefit of the fee. And if you step back, for those that wish the school board would have continued to levy a fee, there's a requirement that the fee be spent in a prudent period of time. If the school board collected a fee from 2008, 9, 10, 11, and 12, and had no need to build a new school, remember, those fees cannot be used to remodel a school. They can only be used for new growth. And if there was new growth, there would have been a period of time that would have passed, and they would have had to start refunding that money.
Good point.
And the management of the school system is well aware of that principle in impact fee administration, such that that principle guided them in determining why collect a fee if we know we're going to turn around 6 years down the road, 7 years down the road, and start refunding that fee. It's an important principle that we measure our impact fees, and they have to measure theirs in their capital improvement program to know, can we spend this money in the time frame required? Did I get that right, Bill?
Well, the principle is correct. There is a requirement that you have some mechanism for allowing fees to be refunded if you don't use them within a reasonable time. I'm not sure how, I don't think it's ever been applied in the context of a school impact fee. And honestly, I'm not sure how it would, because it's tough for them. School infrastructure doesn't work like road infrastructure. The way I've described it is, if you have $20 million of road impact fees and you need a $20 million road segment, you go and build the road. And then in 5 years, you send somebody out to resurface it. Perhaps you have maintenance responsibilities. If $20 million in school impact fee proceeds and you need a school, you've also got to fill it with people. You got to fill it with teachers, administrators, plant facility people. There are operational challenges that impact fees do not fund. They are for capital costs only. So the courts might be more forgiving with them in terms of when they are responsible for refunding money back. And I don't know when that would be. But it's certainly a concern that they would have to be thinking about when they're making their decisions.
I brought that up because of your earlier statement about the litigiousness of some of the developers, that if they paid a fee and they didn't see a new school being built, they'd bring it up.
They have the most difficult infrastructure challenges because of the operational costs that come along with the infrastructure. It is a really difficult problem, and the legislature hasn't made it easy for them. You start looking at the various statutes, 1013, which talks about when they can build and what they can build, and class size amendment, and then you look at the concurrency statute and what they're allowed to think about and calculate and what they're not allowed to do. It is a very difficult job.
Yeah, and school impact fees came along much later, if I remember correctly, than
Yes.
other impact fees.
Late 90s.
Yeah, because
Late
that
90s.
was kind of a new concept, if
Yeah.
you will.
Yeah, we never heard of them.
Orange County had major issues.
That was the
with
first lawsuit, 98.
Yes. Yeah, I remember. Okay, Commissioner DiSabatino.
Yes, before you continue on, I just wanted to say a couple things regarding the history, to settle a couple things straight, and then we can move forward. Yes, as Mr. Brown said, we are a community. We work together. When we had Air Products come, we all worked with the school board. Carol worked with the school board and rose to the occasion and with MTI and got that accomplished. When we had our COG meeting at the EOC, and they had a big meeting and indicated that we needed to address very, very early education. This board rose to the occasion through the CSAB funding and addressed early education, and the CSAB board changed a lot of their priorities. So with that said, we are a community, we work together, and that's why, we're all on board with this. And I had asked staff for the history, because I was on the board in 11. It was brought to my attention that I was the one actually that motioned for the approval, which I rarely do. So I went back and I watched the tape from June 21st of 11, and probably 2 hours and 50-some minutes into it, we were voting. There were actually two items. Ordinance 1120 and 1120 and 1121. Let's see, make sure I'm right. 22. 1120 was the county impact fee, and it was a very in-depth study. The gentleman looked very knowledgeable. We were all very pleased with it, and he did a good job, and he did the 4 impact fees. And so we voted on that, and Mr. McClegg went to the podium on that tape, and he's just reminded the board at that time that we were voting on the 2 issues, the county portion and then the school board portion. There was a lot of discussion on the county portion, but very little on the school board portion. But I remember during that time, we were still in the free fall, and we didn't know when it was coming back. But at the time, it was a 2-year extension again from 11 to 13. Knowing that, we would have probably assumed either we were going to continue with the impact fees or have a further discussion, because I think on all that paperwork, we were going to do an impact fee study in the interim. I don't think that happened. But in the letter from the school board, March 23rd of 09, from the finance department, the thing that puzzles me is they had requested a 1-year moratorium. Okay, and then a letter from the school board saying a 12-month period effective July of 09. But then when it came to the county in 09, the Board of County Commissioners on May 19th, 09, which was, okay, so the first letter was April, so the next month. The agenda item on May 19th of 09 was for a 2-year. So that was different from what the school board had sent a letter about. So the county and McClash had, and I went back and looked at the tape, McClash at 2 hours and 50-some minutes, motioned for the 1 year. And it died for second. And then I think it was Whitmore and Chappie said 2 years. So it's just confusing how that transpired. That was in 09. So then 09 to 11, and then I was on in 11 watching the tape. And so the 11 to 13, so now we have a letter of June the 17th of 13 from the school district. Again, another 1 year. And for a 1-year extension. But my question now is, in 13, and then in 14, did this board, I don't know if the board took action to extend it. So I think that's the confusion in the marketplace.
Madam Chair, Commissioner DeSabatino, I'm not aware that the board ever took any action to extend it. I can tell you at that point, if you had asked me, I would have said you don't need to, because the ordinance is completely unenforceable until you do a new study. There's just no way to bring the fee back at that point.
Right.
Now, I'm told there was a reference in the, I don't remember, I can't remember that well, everything that's happened at one of these meetings, but I'm told the minutes in 09 reflect that the superintendent did attend and suggest a 2-year moratorium instead of a 1-year moratorium. Maybe the board didn't vote on that, but their superintendent apparently
That was
did.
in the original information.
I don't know. I'm not sure what we gain by going back through all this history at this point if we want to reconsider the school impact fee.
Well,
if you want to be able to do that, we need to go through the process of a study.
I understand that, but
And we're prepared to do that if
but
that's
if
what
you
the
disregard
board wants to
history, you're
do.
doomed to repeat it. Okay, so in 11 and 13, when it would have come back before us. There was a letter stating that it needed to come back before us, but it didn't. So that's the confusion and concern in the marketplace. Whether they were going to instate it or not, we didn't go through the steps. And then in May of 14, again from the school board, an email to Mr. Hunziker. The school board approved a request for another one-year moratorium to July of 15, and, but we never voted on that, to my knowledge.
Don't need to.
Suppose you did, though, what? I mean,
But I'm
what
just
does it-
saying, that's why the record
You
is
can't get the
unclear. I
fee
have
back,
a
is the
couple more
point.
things.
You can't reinstate the fee without the
understand.
study. There's just no way.
Okay, and then on May of 14, from the school board, they were indicating that the history of the moratoriums, and then this is May of 14, that the impact study is required, so they are starting out last year. They sent a letter to us saying that required to begin, a study is required to begin collections again. So, and then they stated the statute. The next step would to be release an RFP for a comprehensive impact fee study. Staff has discussions with Manatee County about the possibility of expanding the study to incorporate reviewing the need for a potential amount of school impact fees. Start talking about a partnership. The timeline is to start an impact fee study in 6 to 12 months, which extends beyond the impact moratorium. So last May, they had started the discussion. Thank you.
Yeah, I just have to comment. Other than just making this totally convoluted, I'm not sure what the point is. We have a letter here of June 2013 where the school board says that they had moratorium from July 27, 2009 to 2011. Second moratorium, July 27, 2011 through July 27, 2013. The school board says that they requested, this is a letter from the school board saying they requested the board adopt moratoriums for the collection of educational facility impact fees on 2 occasions, 2009 through 2011, 2011 through 2013. That is signed by the school board planner. I don't know why we're discounting that because you look through the minutes. And then there is another action that was taken by the school board in 2014. It says the moratorium has been extended annually by both parties, and then it talks about the need for a study, and that's where we are. So I agree that we can go back and look at history and try to feed all the folks that want to just keep stirring this up, but we have to look at we're best today. Is it best to move forward? The school board has asked for this to move forward. Our county attorney has told us we have to. I'm not sure what the point is
The
for
point
continuing to
is,
dig
Madam
this up.
Chair, we have to move forward, but we have to clarify where we are at this point. So that was the reason. And the school board did all their duties. They sent us the letters, but we didn't act as a board. We didn't either say we're going to extend it or not. I'm just saying we didn't do that. So they did their duties in sending us the information. We didn't officially act on it. If the administration was allowed to do that unilaterally, then that's it. But, we need to move forward, but I just wanted to clear the record. And so where we are today, it is what it is, and let's move on.
Madam Chair.
Well, I
think I have up Commissioner Whitmore and then Commissioner Baugh.
Well, I just can't believe we're even talking about all this because the school board has the right to determine their destiny. They have been through, the school board has been through a lot in the last few years. And I'm sure we've all been told by our attorneys in our briefings, and that yet we come out here and say it publicly, but we've also been told at our briefings that even if they did say that, it had to have a study. So what the heck are we talking about? On this item today, we need to approve it so we can get a study, because we all know that the fees have gone up for roads. The developers need to be paying their fair share, and they don't have to until we get the study done. So I'm going to support the action, the recommendation of the staff. And I'm just like, who said, she said, you know, I've been reading all this stuff, and it's like, just, you know, and no matter what you say, Bill, it's, you know, going to get twisted anyway, but at least that's why I asked you the questions that I did, the direct questions, because we do not have any say of what the school board does. You know, and shame on us for trying to tell them, and I would be just as upset, Charlie, if you guys would come here and tell us what to do. So, you know, let's just move on, and let's work together as a team and get this moving forward.
Commissioner Ball?
Yeah, I agree. I just want to add that, you know, I wasn't here in '09, I wasn't here in '11. Robin, I think you were, if I'm not mistaken. I don't remember when you came on the board. However, it doesn't matter. What bothers me is the insinuations that are being orchestrated to discredit the BOCC. We have followed the law from what I can see, from what I have been told by the county attorney's office. To try and orchestrate failure on the BOCC part is truly just out of line. We are here today to approve a local development agreement, to try and work with the school board, to get them back on track, to do what we can, and we need to move in that direction. So let's stop with the other nonsense.
Okay, that's all I have on the board, so I'm going to go ahead and open it up.
I was on the board. That's just,
yeah.
My opinion, I have fact. It's not nonsense. It's not nonsense when they come before you too. You really need to retract that.
Well,
and it does matter what we did in history, and we're moving forward. But, you know, to accuse me of orchestrating this, that's just unbelievable. I'm stating fact. I watched a tape. We didn't vote.
Okay.
So
how does it change anything today?
it doesn't change anything, but I'm not saying that
Let's stop. We're going to go ahead and stop.
The school
We're going to
board
go ahead and go
did
to
their
public
duty.
comments.
The school board did their
We're
duty.
at a point now where we've been advised by our county attorney what the law is relative to school impact fees. We have a proposal before us. We're going forward with the study. That's the question that's before us.
Public comment.
And we're going to go to public comment, and I know people want to talk about what happened in the past, and that's certainly your right to do so, but I would hope that we would be future-oriented. So, having said that, I'll go ahead and open up for public comment. I know I have Mr. Gibolino was signed up to speak to this, I think. But anyone who would like to address the board on this issue, please come forward, state your name for the record, and you'll have 3 minutes to address the board. Except for if you already addressed the board on certain parts of it, you can't repeat those comments.
My name is Edward Goff. I'm a resident in Manatee County. I'd like to address comments that were made by the lawyer, Mr. Clegg. First, when the school district, for unknown reasons, requested a suspension in collection of school impact fees, they did so for 1 year. It was 1 year only. It's on the record. I can prove. I have documents that prove that. When it got to the BOCC approved a 2-year suspension. They did that twice, once in 2009 and again in 2011, for a total of 4 years. The ordinance clearly states that during that time period, before the end of that time period, there was to be a study in combination with the county and the schools to it's an impact fee study. It was in that ordinance, both of those ordinances, the first one in 2009 and the second one in 2011. The study was not done. Nonetheless, the suspension went into effect on July 27th, 2009, and after the second extension, it ended on July 27th, 2013. It was a suspension. It was not a termination of the collection of the impact fee. The suspension ended. Therefore, the collection should have begun when the suspension ended. It did not, and that is my point. Mr. Clegg also said that the ordinance requires the best information. That term best is not used in the state statute. It says most recent and localized data. It just happens to be that the data is old. It is old. I don't dispute that. It's probably old because the rates were going up and nobody wanted to pay higher rates, so nobody requested another study. And then it was suspended. There should have been a study during that time. Someone was negligent in not doing that study. It wasn't my fault. I don't know whose fault it was, but it didn't happen. I am in favor of a study now, and I hope the study takes place in an expedient way and there's no more delay than possibly necessary because the schools desperately need the money. They needed it in 2009, they needed it in 2011, and they need it even more now. And I think it's terrible that the schools are not being funded adequately and that we have a C-rated school system. C-rated school system. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else who'd like to address the board on this issue? Please come forward.
Hi, folks. My name is Paul Valenz, and I'm a citizen of Manatee County. I do have some of these for all of you here, copies. The county attorney has cut my presentation somewhat short, but I would like to point out some of the things I have. I'm leaving a lot of it out, but I want to let you know a couple of things here. First of all, most counties, almost every county, has had or does have an impact fee. Because we don't, or because we cut ours or suspended it, it's nobody's fault. It's here. It's done. Let's do what we have to do. I think Carol made a point. Let's get on this thing. Let's get it done. Let's put our arms around and do what we have to do to get it going again. But I want to point out Lee County. Okay, this is dated February 6, 2015. I'm just going to read you one sentence. You have all writing there for you. County government would slap. Again, this is not in cement, but this is what they're doing, and it looks like it's going to go through. County government would slap a $12,985 tax on every new home built in Lee County under a proposed now being considered by the commissioners. Currently, home builders and their customers pay a one-time tax of $2,942, already a significant amount of money. Now, that's incredible that they're going to go to $12,985 from $2,900. Now, I know they use the word tax, and it's been corrected here. It's not a tax. It's an impact fee. That's what they're talking about, impact fees. A couple of other things. In Manatee County, there was just an article that said most residents that come into this county in the last few years pay their homes in cash. Where they get that cash from, I don't know. Maybe they sell businesses or whatever. But if the majority are paying in cash, if they're buying a $200,000 home, I don't think $203,000 is going to stop them from buying that house. Please keep that in mind when you talk about these impact fees. On the next page, it's written very small, but I'm going to touch on a couple of things. During the economic downturn, more than half the Florida counties that use impact fees to offset the cost of new development have reduced or suspended their fees. I'm going to tell you this, as far as I could see, I know there's 56 of the 67 counties that have impact fees. Again, I'm urging you, you were able to suspend it in quite a short time. Let's get it reinstated in a fast time, too. It says here, in keeping fees low, people thought that it created competitive advantages. I have one last little thing, and I'll be off of here. I took out the impact fees that Sarasota County collected. 2014, $10,047,134. Does that tell you something? You know, I know we wouldn't collect the whole 10 million, but I'm sure there's a few million there that we can collect, and we should be doing that.
We are.
Thank you.
Okay. And again, for clarity purposes, we are collecting impact fees, and when we're done
No,
with...
I do realize that, and the county attorney did. I had a lot of other things, but he did impress that it's certain things that I know it's the parks, the libraries, all kinds of things, and I'm aware of that. So thank you very much.
Anyone else who'd like to address the board for public comment? Please come forward, state your name.
Madam Chair, Commissioners, Phil Brown, the President of the United Way of Manatee County. I'm speaking on their behalf, which is on behalf of our community. I encourage you, while I'm fully confident that our commissioners and staff, as well as our school board and the staff there, can and will implement, will follow the law. That's the least of the creative and emotional and political energy that we need to expend. It's the ability, so in support of moving forward with a study, that is one of the revenue streams so necessary to our school district. Frankly, it's probably the easiest one, as it doesn't require voters to weigh in. So there are other revenue streams that our school district needs, which are much more challenging and require our residents to weigh in on. And that's why I implore you, that is challenging. You need to be able to support that in order to be able to support our district. As politically challenged as that is, that's why you all form the leadership. We don't, of our community. That's why our school board represents the entire community. You're not only speaking on behalf of the developers, the individual citizens who may not choose to want to spend more, whatever you call it, a tax or a fee. Those are our challenges for the common good and the future of our community. So I urge you to have the courage and the wisdom to act on behalf of the future of our community. And it's not just what's legal. You can forge relationships that are sort of outside the box to work together. That's the challenge. You all do it with yourselves. It's not just about the folks that elect us or our stakeholders. It's our ability to have that connective tissue leverage what already exists so that we can do more and better on behalf of our community. So thank you for spending the time you are on these challenging issues for our community.
Thank you. Anyone else who'd like to address the board on this issue, please come forward.
Charlie Kennedy, resident of Manatee County. Last Tuesday, good morning, everyone, commissioners. Last Tuesday night, the school board of Manatee County voted 5-0 to enter into this study with the county commission. And I am just basically here to say that I hope you will approve this agreement so we can work together, because we will need your assistance on this matter. And further, before I came on to the school board in November, I was a history teacher, and Ms. DiSabatino, I agree, it is important to know our history. On the other hand, I do think we need to look at the past, but also acknowledge this is where we are today, and these are the solutions we need to examine and move forward with for the sake of all county residents and for our students. So I hope your vote will be to approve, and I can assure you, sir, that whatever you need from the superintendent and his leadership staff, and whatever you need from Manatee School District staff will be delivered to you in a timely manner. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Can I address him real quick? Charles, I just want to say thank you. You were very involved with some of my constituents in the last few days. You were very, very helpful. And for you to come out like you did took a lot of guts, considering everything that's going on right now. And I just think you're awesome. And I did watch your meeting on Tuesday, so Thank you.
Well, thanks. I think you're awesome too. Vanessa, you made, or Ms. Baugh, you made the Madam Chair,
Okay, Vanessa.
Madam Chairwoman. You said earlier about being attracted like the moth to the flame, and I know we have to be careful sometimes because we operate under sunshine, and we have to be careful that as part of a body that we're not speaking for ourselves and we're speaking on behalf of the board. Or that's a tough balance to strike, but Ms. Baugh, it's my pleasure. I mean, when constituents have questions, I'm happy to answer them the best that I can.
Thank you.
Since November, this has been an educational process for me, to say the least.
Yeah.
And, Mr. Gauze said at our meeting last Tuesday, I had some questions about this because I didn't know. And one of the points that I think that he shared during our public meeting that is kind of lost in some of the public debate is that, and it's been mentioned by the attorney a few times, is that however you feel about impact fees, we cannot reinstate them without this study. And I think that's an important point that we should not get lost in the public. So thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you. Other folks would like to come forward and address the board on this issue. Now is your turn.
My name is Glenn Jablina. I'm a resident and taxpayer in Manatee County. The last comment there took guts to come up here. Charlie, where'd he go? Thank you so much. Shouldn't take guts. It should be a normal procedure. There should be a great collaboration between the school board and the county. I think there should be a representative from this board at every school meeting. I've not seen one commissioner at a workshop from the school board. Where's the collaboration between the two boards? You guys need to start communicating. I think there should be quarterly meetings at the very least to talk about this. We've been kicking this dead horse around for 6 years. And Robin, thank you so much for the insight and the history and the timeline of it. So there has been some serious errors in getting this thing through. Again, there has to be open communication between Madam Chair and possibly the superintendent, but certainly the board. So I would encourage this board to show up next Tuesday and give your input at a school board meeting. It's not beneath you to go to these meetings. I think it's part of your job description, quite honestly. And I think it's part of the school board's job description to show up here and voice their opinions. Or how else are you going to know what's going on? So I would greatly encourage these two boards to get together and start collaborating. I mean, you got the Board of Governors meetings. You have time to talk there. You guys got meetings every other Tuesday. I think you should do that. So I'm going to close with submitting this article that was in the paper today. I hope you all had a chance to read it. I feel the same way on a lot of these topics.
Not that one.
Well, I do. So anyways, I would encourage this board to collaborate with the school board. I would encourage the school board to collaborate with this board and even the Port Authority as far as I'm concerned. This disconnect between the boards is unprofessional. We can do a better job. You need to do a better job. That's, the citizens hired both boards. It's not our jobs to put you together. It's your job to put you guys together. So that's my 2 cents on it.
Madam Chair, I'd like to say I watched their workshop and their meeting on Tuesday. Thank you, Glenn.
Great. And I know we all want to respond to that, and that this is this is the
It's
problem.
hard not to.
It's so hard not to, and people throw these daggers at us left and right, blogs, wherever. It's just so hard not to respond to. But I'm going to ask till we close public comment not to respond. Anybody else who wants to address the board on this issue? Okay. Seeing no one come forward, I'll go ahead and close public comment. First, Mr. Clegg, you want to respond?
Yeah, Madam Chair, I would like to respond to a couple of the comments that Mr. Goff made because I think they merit a response.
Thank you.
And I apologize for paraphrasing the statute. It's a lot to remember, everything going on up here. So, and he's correct. He's correct. The exact language is as he quoted it. The ordinances that were adopted in 2009 and 2011 said that there would be a new study done with the cooperation of the school board. And they were worded that way because you can't do them without the cooperation of the school board, as we've discussed at great length this morning. I was not directly involved in the communications with them. That's not a function of the county attorney's office. But what I understood from working with staff and the administrator is that they expressed that they were not interested at that time in working on a new study. And I think if you look at the letter that we received from Mr. Penley in 13 and the subsequent decisions of the school board, they are consistent with that. Now, I understand Mr. Goff's thinking as well. Because we called it a suspension and not a termination, perhaps we could reinstate it without having to comply with the principles under the case law and the statutory requirements for a new study. And no disrespect to his creative thinking, but I do not believe that that would pass muster in court. And I base that on experience because we have litigated these kinds of issues in the county attorney's office. An impact fee at the end of the day is a legislative exaction. You are telling people they must pay a certain amount of money to exercise their property rights so they can invoke constitutional property rights principles in challenging that fee. And as such, judges scrutinize what the county's doing very intensely. And they're not going to say, well, we'll overlook the requirement to have data that's up to date to support the fee because of the way you worded an ordinance. I just don't see us being able to defend that in court, and I would not be able to advise you to do it. The liability would be considerable. The answer to the problem is to get a study going and come back and bring it to this board with all the steps having been taken so you can consider an impact fee. And I hope as we go forward, because I watched the meeting last week too, and it was a rough meeting, and when we're doing impact fees, we need to have a very professional, straightforward, and clean record, or we make it easier for somebody to bring a legal challenge if we decide to impose one or raise one. So that would be my advice.
Commissioner Whitmore.
Just want to make a comment on what Mr. Goff had said, that we needed the money then and we needed the money now. The money then, as we all know, the unemployment was almost up to 12%. We sure weren't going to build any more schools. In fact, we were losing people. So that is subjective. It's not objective because we didn't have a study. But, you know, I just wanted to clarify that because I think everybody forgets now that the county was imploding. And I was up here when we had to lay off 300 people and cut back. And so there wasn't a need to build schools then, and that's what the school board had communicated. So, and again, this is a separate entity. We're just voting to sign an interlocal agreement with the school board, providing for an impact fee study, and that's my motion.
You made a motion for
Yep.
approval?
Yep.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Under discussion, I have Commissioner DiSabatino.
Just two items that just wanted to, one past, one present. Just for the record, the May 19th, 09 minutes indicated from Dan Schlant, Deputy County Administrator, and this is regarding ordinance 09-36, educational impact fees.
Point of order, Madam Chairman.
No.
I don't believe this relates to the motion.
It does. Explain the impact fee has been completed. I'm just saying, it was on record that the fee, and that was regarding schools, that the impact fee was completed.
Well, I don't even know what that means. The impact fee was completed.
For the school,
That's
under the
relative
school
to the
board.
motion. Can you please explain
Okay.
how?
Really?
How is that related to the motion?
It's all part of this discussion. And then I just have one question moving forward. Since we're partnering with the school board, would any discussions between a board or county commissioner and a school board member fall under the sunshine because we're all doing this together?
No.
Oh, the daggers.
Two separate
Okay,
boards.
I just wanted to know.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Two separate boards.
And I do have quite a few comments that I want to make too, but I'll make them after because they're not relevant to, well, I will make the one comment because we were charged with perhaps not having a good relationship with the school board. I don't think there's anything that's further from the truth. I understand that people want to try to drum things up based on the history, and the fact of the matter is the history's the history. I wasn't here till 2012. it's kind of interesting to hear people that were here talk about how bad things were done. Perhaps they should have done things differently if they had problems with the way things were done when they were on the board. But that seems to be the way we love to do things nowadays. We like to somehow trash people for what was done in the past and not think about where we're going to go forward in the future. And we are going to go forward in the future, and it's going to be a challenge. And we've heard this. There's no doubt that our school system has challenges. My husband was a teacher, just retired, 35 years. My mother was a speech therapist in the school system for 35 years. There's no doubt that schools have been under attack generally. The teachers feel that. The parents feel it. God, we hope the students don't feel it. But the fact of the matter is this is an important community issue. We need to address it. This is a first step in moving forward to figure out a way to address what we know is happening. We're seeing growth again. We didn't have growth in 2009. We didn't have growth in 2011. You can look at the numbers that the schools had, the population had dropped off. So there is no problem with the relationship between the Manatee County Board of County Commissioners and the school board. And, I'll commit that we're working together. Mr. Administrator.
I might add that Mr. Mills and I have a very good working relationship on the staff level. We converse quite frequently about issues in the community.
And we know that goes on a regular basis. So, Commissioner DeSabatino, did you have more to add, or you just
No,
still
that was it.
left? I didn't hit you off. Okay. All those in favor of the motion, this is for approval of the interlocal, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Chair votes aye. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you for being here.
Thanks, Charlie.
Okie dokie. Next up, there's any questions on the dashboard. We have that before you for informational purposes. I think you all look at it. You can see.
Excuse me, Madam Chair. Item 13.
Oh, you're right. This is the budget amendment, item number 13. And I assume that the question was raised because of the cost for the
Right.
study.
I had a question of what the, in general, the old fee costs and any projection of what the new fee in a ballpark. 235 seems
That's 180
lot.
years ago.
Madam Chairman, Commissioners, Dan Slant. I believe I provided information to the board that the last one that was done was $181,000. That one did not include the school piece, and roughly $50,000 for that. If you take the 235 minus the 50, you get to 185. So it's relatively what we've paid for the past one. I'm not sure what the one before that cost, but I think most of the submissions were generally in that range, and that's pretty much the price that I think we expected it to come in at.
And
So,
the funding comes from which pocket?
I'm sorry?
The funding comes from which pot?
It's from unincorporated reserves.
Which is?
I'm sorry, unincorporated MSTU reserves. This is not a countywide impact fee. Ours are only assessed in the unincorporated area, so it should only be charged to the unincorporated residents that pay into the unincorporated MSTU, Municipal Services Taxing Unit.
Right.
That answer your question?
I'll move to approve item 13.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for the budget amendment. All those in favor signify. First of all, I ask if there's any public comment on the budget amendment. Anybody who'd like to comment on the budget amendment? This is item number 13 on our agenda. Okay, seeing no one come forward, I'll go ahead and close public comment. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Chair votes aye. Motion passes unanimously. There was a question raised, and I'm going to ask the county administrator about impact fees collected. And I know we got a study. We all got a very detailed handout, which I would love to provide to anyone who'd like to see the amount of impact fees that have been collected. They are significant in Manatee County as they are in Sarasota County. So I think there's some misunderstanding perhaps again about the amount of impact fees that we've collected in the past couple of years. Do you happen to know that?
Oh.
Anybody off the top of your
No,
head?
we do provide for the board on an annual basis a report that reflects the amount of money collected.
It's in the
by-
dashboard.
No, well, it's in the dashboard, but the annual report that reflects the amount of money collected since the inception of the impact fees, how much has been spent, how much is in reserves, how much is committed to projects in your capital improvement program, and how much is unencumbered. It's a very detailed report, and we have that available for anybody that would like to see a copy of it.
Does anybody happen to have that right up? Because we're going to say that. Impact fees total. This is in 2013-14, the cumulative impact fee total, going from the dashboard, is $16,910,614. So it's significant. We're not talking about small amounts of money. 16.9 million is a pretty big number. So there have been impact fees continuously collected, and we'll see what the study shows, because we're moving toward that. Okay. At this time, did anybody, you'd signed up to talk about the dashboard, I think? Would you please come forward and make comments?
My name is Glenn Jablina, Manatee and taxpayer, Manatee County. I just want to address on the dashboard, I won't burn up the whole 3 minutes, is the sheriff's budget and the prison population at the port. 1833, there was a federal law that was passed that abolished debtor's prison. I believe it still goes on today in this county. And it goes on in the way of child support. There are warrants being issued for child support, and good moms and dads are being thrown in jail because of arrearage child support. That's a debtor's prison. There was an incident last week, national news coverage. Walter Scott, South Carolina, got stopped for a taillight. There was an open warrant for him for child support. He got out of his car and started to run. He did not listen to the officer. Walter Scott, for not stopping and for being behind his child support, got 8 bullets in his back and died instantly. If he would have gone to trial for late child support, he wouldn't have gotten a death penalty, but he got the death penalty from the South Carolina officer that shot him 8 times. The port is designed for prisoners, violent crimes, theft, murder, not paying a debt. If there's no victim, there is no crime. So I would urge this board not to fund anybody that is in there for child support. There's no reason for it. And believe me, I sit in child support hearing officers. I was in Judge Steffen's yesterday in Sarasota family court, a couple hours in there. So I visit. I visit drug court, I visit family court. I go to child support hearings. So I've got a handle on what goes on in there. And I am telling you, I do not want to see this type of action possibly here in Manatee County. And believe me, I have the utmost respect for Sheriff Stubbe and every one of the officers. I don't think it would ever get to that, but why don't we just eliminate it? We're not a debtor's prison. And every time you throw somebody in jail over child support, you lower the standards, and that's a form of slavery in debtor's prison. And we don't need it in our county. We are better than that. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. At this point, we have nothing further on the agenda, so we're going to go to commissioner comments. I'll go ahead and start with Commissioner Chappie.
Well, thank you. On Friday the 17th, I did attend the flag raising ceremony at Blake, which the organ donation flag raising, and they were running off some statistics, and I just thought I'd like to share them with you. So Dan Friedrich sent them to me, and I thought they were interesting. In the past 3 years, they've had 33 donors for a total of 128 organs that were recovered and transplanted, resulting in 107 lives saved. So I think that's they need to be committed to that. All the people that do sign up to be donors, and I would urge everybody to of course do that. That's it right now. I wasn't expecting to go first. I might have
Okay.
something. Go
Well,
ahead.
come back if you come up with something else.
Yeah.
Commissioner DeSabatino?
I really don't have anything today.
Commissioner Belson?
I have a couple of things. At our last workshop, we talked about the possibility of having a joint meeting between our board and the school board of Manatee County. And I think that's a good idea, and therefore I make a motion that we reach out to the school board and ask if they would like to participate with us in a joint workshop session.
I second that motion, Madam Chair.
Okay. Got a motion and a second to have a workshop with the school board to explore questions, and this came up at our last workshop that was suggested. I think it's a good idea to set the air, clear the air about who has what responsibility. And we both have lots on our plates, but we all have this community's best interest at heart, so do you hear that? We have a motion and a second to have a joint workshop with the school board. And any other comments on that?
By way of discussion, I'd like to address the comments that were made that we don't collaborate with the school district. I think that's absurd. You know, it's once again, it's a person taking complete liberty with the truth by standing in front of us and saying something that is absurd. We reach out weekly to the school district. We share their agony over the constitutional responsibilities that they have, as I'm sure they share our agony over how we deal with the problems of the county. I recall one particular instance where we suggested that we support the school district in the testing issue that they were dealing with. We incorporated that into our initiatives, our legislative initiatives, and I'm happy to say it looks like it got some sort of reaction in Tallahassee. We got some results. So I think we actually do collaborate, and I think there's obviously more areas perhaps that we could explore, but to say that we don't have any is taking liberty with the truth.
Madam Chair, on that, we also supported them. Remember, Gauze came before us with the MTI, the funding for vocational. We've worked with that. Also, Mr. Mills and I, as you know, via the port, have started this jobs focus group with the EDCs and all the organizations and the colleges in town to get that into the curriculum. So again, you know, and it is reported at these meetings, but unfortunately, maybe a lot of the citizens don't know. And I know Chappie goes to every school in Manatee County almost and meets with the principals, and he's been doing that every year since he's been elected, just to have a relationship with them, because a lot of the schools were in his district, but he actually does almost all of them. So to say that that they don't know us by first name, they call us, you know, I just can't understand that. But if that's the perception, maybe we just need to do a better job and let you all know what we're doing.
Commissioner Chappie?
Yeah, I was in the same lines with what Commissioner Whitmore said. I think it's important to note, and yeah, maybe it's a communication issue. We have brought it up on quite a few occasions, actually, about how we interact with the different schools in our districts, and we have a lot of volunteers up here that really get into the weeds because we understand clearly that, you know, the bottom line, it's about these kids and the message that we send to them. So we do get involved. And we will continue doing that. It's our future. It's what makes Manatee County such a great community. We have some rough spots, but you know, when you don't have the rough spots, I guess you don't appreciate the good times as much too. And you need to work harder and to get to those good times. So, thank you. I appreciate everybody's volunteering and what they do.
And we certainly can clarify what the roles are.
Yes.
Because, you know, people elect us to do different things. I'm not elected as a school board member. I'm elected as a county commissioner.
Right.
So, and I understand people's frustration with the situation wherever it is, but we don't automatically take over their duties because somebody thinks that we should. The law's pretty clear.
Yeah.
So, all right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Chair votes aye. Motion carries unanimously.
I have one other item.
Okay.
I'm sure my colleagues will remember that a couple of years ago, we had a joint meeting with Sarasota County Commission. And one of the items that we discussed was the possibility of exploring collaboration between the two counties in regard to transit. They have a new board down there. I think we have a unsolicited proposal on the table. I'd like to suggest that we reach out to Sarasota County and ask if they would like to meet with us, this time perhaps here, and explore the possibilities of mutual collaboration in regard to transit, or for that matter, any other area that might be. I know we're already doing some things like the radio and so on, but transit has a lot of potential, and so that would be a primary focus of the meeting, would be to look at the possibility of a joint venture in regard to transit. So I'll make that as a motion, that we ask the administrator to reach out to Sarasota.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Under discussion of the motion, Commissioner DiSabatino.
Again, the same question to the county attorney. Would it be construed under the sunshine if we spoke with any other Sarasota commissioner, being a joint project?
About this issue?
No.
No.
Good.
We
I-
don't, not on
You're
the
not,
same
you're not
board.
members of the same collegial body.
But if we're voting on the same system,
Doesn't matter.
I thought you said yesterday, we need to be careful about that.
We're not on the same.
It would not be a violation of the sunshine. You're not a member of the same collegial body.
As long as you're speaking to one Sarasota County Commissioner, one
not two
Manatee County
together.
Commissioner.
Yeah.
That's correct.
Not two together, right?
Right.
Correct.
Right.
The sunshine,
Correct.
yeah, definitely.
One-on-one,
Be a
it's
problem
fine.
for them if you speak to two of them at the same time.
Yes, yeah, or, yeah,
They've had that issue.
okay. Commissioner Sabado. Yeah, I was going to bring this up too. You know, we have a unsolicited proposal that came in, it's paid their fee. Sarasota is in the process of looking at their paratransit. I know they had issues with their bidding process for that. Their RFP had I guess somebody protested, so they had to go back out for another one. Of course, the proposal includes all services, and you know, we don't know. We don't know if it's good or bad. The procedure requires us, if we decide to go out, we don't just take that unsolicited proposal. We have to go out with a request for a proposal, and others will have the opportunity to bid. We don't know how the numbers are going to shake out. We don't know if it's good, bad, or otherwise. But we won't know unless we have the opportunity to ask. And yes, we did both vote and say that we wanted to do this, and there has been some changes. But I certainly think we need to continue the dialogue with them, and you know, there's, what we've heard is there's a possibility of savings. I don't know, Commissioner, Mr. Administrator, did you have anything you wanted to add on that?
Yes, we both received this unsolicited proposal. Both counties received it. The proposal was general in terms, but committed to a minimum of $2.5 million worth of savings, as required by your ordinance and state statutes relative to unsolicited proposals. We, that would be we and Sarasota County, together, since it's a proposal made to both counties, would need to proceed with an RFP. In that RFP, we would take their general proposal that meets the statutory requirements as we understand them,
and it's been reviewed by the county attorney's office, and put that out on the street and let all firms submit detailed proposals. The firm that submitted this unsolicited proposal would then sharpen their pencil and commit in detail to how they arrived at that or a higher number. And then we, in conjunction with Sarasota County, would evaluate the responses to this RFP that we put on the street. And at the end of the day, we would pick the best firm, but if the boards didn't like what you saw, you could reject all proposals. They would then proceed to negotiate with the firms and protect what you needed to protect, or define the terms that you want in that final contract, which would determine the ultimate savings from this proposal. But again, this proposal that came in was for both the fixed route service and the paratransit service. It is my understanding from reading the press that the staff in Sarasota County, or a staff person in Sarasota County, is recommending against proceeding. I don't know when the board in Sarasota is going to take that up. They might be taking it up today or this week. I will communicate with, based on this board's direction, with Tom Harmer that you would like to visit, and that if you vote based on your vote, if you are interested, communicate that this board is interested. From my perspective, when someone offers $2.5 million, it merits looking into it. We can always reject all bids, but we need to find out where the savings comes from. If we don't like where the savings comes from, then we can reject the process. But just to turn it down on its face is, I think we have talked about the opportunity to expand transit service in this county at no additional cost to the taxpayers is worthy of a look. So I would recommend and support the idea of taking a look. And taking a look is putting an RFP on the street. But putting an RFP on the street requires the cooperation of Sarasota County.
We need to know how the board for Sarasota County feels and need to have a discussion, I think.
Yeah. So there's a motion?
Commissioner Chen?
Well, whenever we go around, I have a couple of things.
Oh, okay. Well, we're still talking about this motion that's on the floor.
That's why I turned it off.
What exactly is the motion again? Can you tell me?
Have a work session.
To have a
Work session.
work session with Sarasota.
Reach out to
Sarasota County.
Sarasota County and see if they would like to meet with us jointly to explore this possibility.
Okay, okay. County Attorney, I have you on the board?
Yes, Madam Chair, Mr. Eschenfelder has joined us, and I suspect that he wants to enlighten us a little further on the sunshine question. Is my suspicion correct, Rob?
It is not.
Oh, darn! Darn!
I wasn't aware that there was a sunshine question.
Well, he addressed it.
Okay.
We know.
Oh, the earlier about the
Yes.
school board? Oh, yeah.
Right.
No, not the
No,
school
no,
board.
Well, it's the same thing,
Us and
Sarasota County.
County Commission and this
partnering.
commission talking.
Call them individually. Is that a sunshine law?
One commissioner talking to a Sarasota commissioner is not a sunshine
no,
issue.
totally not.
I just, on the motion that's on the floor, you can, vote on it if you like, but just, it would be somewhat symbolic if this board's position hasn't changed from when you all had your last joint meeting. As the administrator recalls, and you all recall, you did meet with Sarasota, and there already is a joint motion that both commissions passed saying proceed, instructing both administrators to proceed, and that is still legal and binding and filed, that the vote you all took. So I think really what needs to happen is the Sarasota County Commission needs to say, are we still standing behind it? My presumption is the majority of this board, from hearing the discussion, is still behind looking at the issue. And as the administrator indicated, you can't know really what's going to happen until you put the RFP on the street and you get actual detailed proposals and start negotiating a contract. So, again, just you can vote today, but it might also be the case that by the time you put together a joint workshop that you've now lost another 2 months, when really we just need to know, is the Sarasota County Commission going to want to proceed or not? You know, and you being in the same room at the same time.
Perhaps a letter from us?
Yeah.
rather than
Well-
a workshop?
Or go to their go to their meeting, the chair or the.
If I might, your motion is to request a joint meeting. I think we need something stronger that says we support going forward.
Yeah.
And a letter to them indicating that you support going forward and looking into this unsolicited proposal by issuing an RFP. We were, based on that motion 2 years ago this month, the two county administrators were to craft an interlocal agreement that would provide for one procurement to solicit one firm to operate both systems. We, well, actually, Mr. Eschenfelder, crafted that interlocal agreement. We dusted that off, Mr. Eschenfelder, dusted that off this past week, and we sent Mr. Harmer a copy of that interlocal agreement, because at the time, we were working on both the P25 radio system and looking at this transit proposal, and the staff had worked out an agreement that Sarasota County staff would do the procurement for the P25 radio system, and Manatee County staff would do the procurement for the transit proposal.
Interesting.
We still stand ready to do that, if they so desire.
I modify my motion to incorporate what you.
So, if you would,
I think it would be a motion to reaffirm this board's position that it desires to examine the joint operation through private sector, exploring the joint operation of the two transit systems through the private sector, and instructing the administrator to draft a letter so communicating to Sarasota County. That would be the best motion.
Okay, the motioner
That good?
agree?
Yeah.
Seconder agree?
Yeah.
All right. Commissioner Whitmore, do you have any more comments?
Not on this.
Okay. All right, nobody's on the board, so all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Chair votes aye. Motion passes unanimously. We'll see. We don't look, we won't know. So, and I've had lots of people ask me to follow up on this in the, lots of constituents ask me that we need to follow up on this.
That's all I have.
Okay, Commissioner Baugh?
I just wanted to talk a little bit about the TDC meeting that we had yesterday. Interesting things came out. You might have read it in the paper today, but Dr. Clay just was telling us how extraordinary the first quarter has been. Our occupancy rates was 95.6%. The average room in Manatee County was $209.30. It's up 11.6% from last year. We are just seeing enormous increases. And it just goes to show how important, and I hope everybody's listening here, we need hotels desperately in Manatee County. The last thing I want to add to that is that the South Florida Museum, I know that probably you're all aware that they're looking at renovations, extensive renovations. I have been over there and walked the museum and looked at what they have in mind. And it is fantastic. You will have something coming before you to look at from the TDC to help them raise the funds that are necessary. And Commissioner Bussell, I just wanted to say I know you were involved in that, and thank you for bringing that forward. It's going to be a great asset to Manatee County as a whole. Thank you. That's it.
Okay, Carol.
Just a few things. As you all know, Will Robinson, our local Will Robinson, ran the Boston Marathon yesterday, and he completed it, even though he had an injury, so we want to congratulate him. Also, Glenn's issue with the port, staff is getting it to me, but Kinder Morgan paid their taxes. It goes to a Houston office, and Del Monte has paid. She's going to get a list of all the tenants, and she, our financial person there, I believe, all have paid. So when I get that, I'm going to forward that to Glenn and to the county. Yet the other day, we were going, last week, I think, for the port meeting. At 8:07 in the morning, I was driving over the Green Bridge, and literally, and I know I don't want to stir a bucket of worms, but literally the traffic was bumper to bumper all the way to the transit station at the very end of the city. Bumper to bumper.
What day?
Last Thursday? Yeah, whenever we had our port meeting, I was shocked. I mean, I knew that, you know, and this was 8:07, it was work time, I get it. That's why Charles and I have changed times for our briefings, because he can't get here at that time, I get it. And then we all had our elected officials meeting at the convention center, and that was 5 o'clock. We were heading back, so you saw it going the other way, and that was over the DeSoto Bridge. I do realize that I'm asking my MPO members here, I know that we are looking at something. I need to be educated every once in a while on where we stand on the studies for those two corridors. I did talk to the city of Bradenton, and where the First Union building is that we own, that eventually it'll be torn down. One of the doctor's offices, and I brought this up at the last meeting, office manager suggested 3 lane in that area to get the turning out, you know, two people turning at a time to the right instead of, you know, when you're coming over the bridge and you're heading south. Just ways to make the traffic flow a little better. I heard Bradenton's working on it. So if anybody can just please make this a point of keeping us in the loop. Are we going to do a bridge study?
It's underway, Carol.
I know, well, that's what I'm asking, because, you know, we have a million things we all work on, and you all that are on the MPO, if you could just keep us updated and keep me updated right now on what exactly is going on, especially after seeing that the other morning.
Yeah, there is a study that's underway, and we will be getting a presentation on that. I was told that they're waiting, but it's already been contracted, the Central Manatee Network Alternatives Analysis, which
Okay.
incorporated the additional bridge study. That's part of it.
On the river?
Yes,
Okay.
across the river. That is part of the study. That study is underway right now in the process, but probably need to find out when we're going to get a report on where they are and the timing for that study. So I think if you agree that we're going to ask county administrator to get us a report on where that study is and when we're going to get out.
Yeah,
I know
just
Saji
somebody.
knows. You can
Yeah.
you can talk to Saji about it. He'll fill you in.
But I really think, I don't know about you guys, that's one thing, you know, that I do hear about, is the traffic. And it's nice to have on, for everybody to be able to communicate the same message out, so it doesn't get convoluted.
May I comment on the traffic?
Yeah.
You know, you have to be careful about what you conclude from a one-time experience. Now,
Hear
I
complaints.
admit that traffic overall, and most of the comments that I get from constituents are about traffic. This morning, I drove to work from my house in Palmetto in 5 minutes.
That's why I asked
At 8:06, 8:05.
Good.
You know, 3 weeks ago, it would probably taken me 15 minutes instead
Right.
of 5 minutes. The day that you were talking about, I have no idea what was going on in the region, but frequently, if there's a hiccup any place on I-75 or 301 or 41, it will influence a big area around it. So, you know, you wind up with a backup all the way to the transit station in Palmetto. But that's not really good evidence to say that you know, the sky is falling. I have to tell you, I think that everybody is aware of it. The MPO is aware of it. We talk about it all the time. We talk about it in regard to the diverging diamond. We talk about it in regard to every project that MPO is working on. Certainly, and most recently, I've been bringing back, and I know my other members of the MPO have been bringing back the results of our MPO meeting. So we've been sharing that with this board. So anyhow, we can certainly get you an update on the network analysis, but at this point in time, it's still underway. It hasn't been finalized. It's probably a year away, I would guess, from being reported, so.
And Madam Chair, I'm not saying the sky's falling, I'm just, it was an observation that I made from people that I hear about. And then the mayor brought up at our meeting the other day of Palmetto, about they have no health care on the north side of the river because of the traffic, which we have 3 ambulances over there. I verified with our EMS. There hasn't been a problem. People have been able to get over the bridge, our EMS, so both bridges, because I asked that too. But, you know, I can understand on that side, and we've been talking about this since I've been in office, since 2006. At one point, we were having a flyover by the Red Barn, an overpass, and so, you know, it's been going on for a while, and I just want to, and I knew we were getting closer, and I just wasn't sure exactly where we were, so thanks.
Mr. Chappie.
Yeah, and just to recap for everybody out there, the analysis is covering quite an area of the traffic network, of the grid system, and it's basically, to put it, you know, from about 26th Street west to 27th Street east, from 17th Avenue on the south of the river to 17th Street north of the river. So it's a large area that encompasses a lot of data that's going to be collected to help the traffic flow, to determine what projects need to be and in the order that they need to be in. So I think it's an important study, and hopefully we'll be able to act on that. I did want to comment.
I just want to comment on that
Sure.
too. And as you may recall, when we went through and prioritized the funding, we moved, and this board did that, we moved the funding, a pot of money, to have it available for when the study's done for improvements. Also, you should have all gotten a copy of the email that Saji forwarded. I forwarded to the Mayor of Palmetto about the improvements that our plan that DOT is doing regarding the turn lane on 3rd. And I think I gave a report about the right-of-way, the fact that there's not a requirement for right-of-way because they're going to take the right-of-way from the median there, and but there was a concern about the buses. Talked about the buses passing in the mirrors and whether or not that was going to have adequate room. And so this group was looking at whether or not there was going to be need to take any right-of-way from the museum in order to accomplish that turn lane. And you should all have the memorandum about the timing of the turn lane. So definitely there's things going on. Definitely we know it's a problem, and, you know, unfortunately, it takes some time. But the reality is it was in a PD&E study for, I don't know, 8 years and never went anywhere.
Right.
So at least we're actually moving forward and have some funding dedicated. And if you all were at the work session, I know I was, that we had with Federal Highway, and this is, they're actually committed to moving forward with improvements once this study's done. It wasn't just one of these studies that's going to be put on the shelf. So we're just going to have to wait and take a little bit of time. So, Commissioner Chappie.
Well, yeah, and just to add to that, the mayor of Longboat Key is asking for a similar type of study, and I believe he's going to be making a presentation to the MPO, and that study would deal with the barrier islands, Longboat Key and Anna Maria, the western part of Manatee County, and also Sarasota County. So,
right,
I'm
and
looking
I would
forward to
encourage
hearing
any
that.
of you who haven't read it, I read it over the weekend, the Longboat Key Bridge Analysis Study that was done in the 80s and in the 90s. Very interesting. In 91, a study done for Longboat Key said there was no need for any additional bridge.
Saw that.
And that probably
around
kind
then.
of kiboshed the whole idea of having
Third
anything
bridge.
new, even though the study prior to that said there was a need. So
Yep, I was
it's kind of
there.
interesting to read the history, and I'm going to recommend that every one of the MPO board members get a copy of that study. And the other thing I kind of like about it, it gives us an opportunity to look at the assumptions that were made and the projections of traffic. You know, this is done in 91, see where we are today. And maybe there's been another study and I'm just not aware of it. But it's interesting to look back and to see what the concerns were. It's also interesting to note that they projected by 96 that all bridges would be high-span bridges and that the Ringling Bridge would have been completely built. So a little bit longer built bridges than what you think. But it's interesting reading, so I'm glad you brought that up. Where are we at? Charles.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to, as you know, I lost my father on April the 3rd, and we did a eulogy the 11th of April, and I just want to thank the staff upstairs and all of them, and county administrator for attending the funeral, and Madam Chair, Commissioner Benek, Commissioner Chappie, Commissioner Whitmore, and getting a lovely letter from the mayor and his wife, condolences of my father passing, and Commissioner DeSabatino calling me also that she could not be in attendance, and Chip Shore, a card from Chip Shore, email from Glenn over there, and Mr. Wheeler, and Miss Piglet, and all of the unsung people that we really heard from, and the thousands of people that signed into the wake, and we just overwhelmed with the love and support that we received from you. It meant a lot to me to look over my shoulder and see you there. It really did. And my family's still hurting. We have a lot of things we need to deal with, and all the hundreds and actually thousands of cards we've had that we have to respond to, and we will respond to all of them. Everyone that prayed for us and sent us a card, we will respond to you. But I want to do this here because in trials and tribulation, you really need to know who your friends are. You're prepared. And I wasn't prepared to lose my father. We never are. And there's nothing prepare you to lose your father and your mother until it actually happens. I still have my mother, but I wasn't prepared to lose my father like most of you was not prepared to probably lose your father. So there's a healing process, but in healing there's grieving. And grieving is a part of healing. I can tell you today that I'm a weak man, but I'm a better man because of what my father had meant to me. And I hope to exemplify those ideals that he put into all of his children, and especially my brother who preached the funeral, Robert Smith, Smitty, who named after my father, and his choir. We thank them so much. But all the love staff gave me, the county attorney's office, Rob, email, the county attorney's wife, and him sent a card. That meant so much to us. And I'm just trying to get through this meeting. I'm very silent to this meeting here. This is a difficult week for us because we have different things and businesses that we have to take care of. And when you still receive phone calls, people asking for your father, and the letters still coming in, it's one of the most difficult things that you deal with and stuff. But I just wanted to tell you that Manatee County government really stood strong and really supported this family. And it means a lot to us. And it'd be a robbery if I didn't tell you that publicly. I love all of you.
We love you too.
And I'm going to be there for you in your trials and tribulation, just like you was for my family. Continue to pray specifically for my mother. She's having a real difficult time. 52 years of marriage. My mother was married, strictly basically out of high school. And so I'm just so thankful to all of you and the love and support. That's all I have. Thank you so much.
Certainly understand, and it was such a moving ceremony. I know we were all there that could be there. I guess you were out of town. And Robin was out of town, but the rest of us were there. So it was a very moving ceremony. Commissioner Whitmore.
And it was wonderful. I actually left happy. You know, usually in funerals you leave sad, and I was. It was a wonderful tribute. Yeah. I just have one quick thing I forgot to say. We started yesterday our Animal Abuse Coalition with Lisa Chitero. We had all the law enforcement there. We're back on track. Animal Services attended, and she goes over cases, new laws that have passed so that our officers and our animal services are all on the same page. And so that started again yesterday, and I was happy for that. And also May 27th, I'm going to start again the Animal Rescue Coalition, which we had over the years. We had it for maybe 4 years, and we meet every quarter, and we invite everyone that supports animals, and what we do is go around in the room and just try to help everybody, all the rescues, if they need help. And it's a great place for dialogue, and actually, you would not believe how many people were there that would help. Oh, we can help you on this, we got this, let's call this person. And it was just a good thing because Animal Services is moving up, and we're doing good work now. We're saving a lot more animals than we ever used to, and the community is really stepping up. So I just wanted to say, and I will be putting something out. We'll reinstitute that again. It's time to move forward. That's all.
Okay, Commissioner Chappie.
Did you want to go, or I thought of a couple things?
I do want to I've got one thing that I need to make sure that we're all clear on. You had asked to not be the alternate on the MPO because you want to be able to have dialogue with the island elected officials, which
Yes.
makes sense. So my thought was that since we have 3 folks that sit on the MPO, that I would have everyone as a potential alternate.
Yeah.
Now, unless anybody objects to that,
With the exception of me.
with the exception of John, everyone would be the alternate, could be an alternate. You just have to ask them. And so unless anyone else has the need to have dialogue with somebody else on the MPO, you would be precluded from having dialogue with any city elected folks that are on the MPO. So what's your thought? Anybody have objection to that? Okay, hearing none, that's what we're going to do.
Madam Chair, just one technical point.
Okay.
As a follow-up to my conversation with you yesterday, I did consult the bylaws of the MPO, and there is no requirement
you have an alternate.
for you to appoint any alternate.
I think that's better.
So, you know, I mean, your approach here is fine, but I just wanted to let you know that there's no mandate for you to appoint any alternate.
Well, the way I've said it is anyone could be an alternate. So if I can't make the meeting, I can go to Carol and say, will you please serve as my alternate? And
But I
she
don't
can.
think we should formalize it because, for exactly the reason what the attorney said. I think, I don't.
What reason?
I don't really
get
think
that.
we need to have an alternate.
Well, what happens
And the
if one
reason
of us
why
goes
is
on?
because the way you're bringing it up, that means I can never talk to another city
That's why I asked.
about
If you don't
anything
wanna
on the
be-
future MPO, and all of you have districts that may have projects be coming up, and that question, I think we got way into the weeds all of a sudden, because that question has never, ever been brought up. And we never had an alternate until a few years back, ever. And I think we did it just before Joe left.
The reality, I believe, the practice was, you just ask somebody, if you're not going to be there, you just ask in general. There was nothing formally done.
So we could still
So,
talk.
you know, whether there's alternates or, and designated by the chair or not is, to me, irrelevant, because we're still doing the same thing. And I like the formality of it. Sometimes I like to stay in between the lines a little too much in life.
Well, we
but-
have alternates in other cases, so I was just kind of following up with what we've had procedurally.
Right.
So I would suggest that we have alternates to exclude John or Carol.
Yeah, because I want to be able to talk to and I can't believe you guys in your districts that aren't on the MPO wouldn't want to talk to your
Well,
constituents.
it's not just that.
Constituents.
You can still
Yeah,
do
but not
that.
about
Talk to
things that go
elected
to the
officials.
MP. Right, well, that's
Absolutely.
what
You
I mean.
better talk to your constituents.
I'm
about
sorry,
that.
I meant the elected officials. That's exactly what I meant.
And just for clarification a little bit, or to explain this, District 3 has 5 of the 6 municipalities. And I am in communication with the elected representative of those cities on a regular basis. I attend their meetings. In particular, in dealing with the island cities, they have one representative for all of Anna Maria, and of course, Longboat has their own. On the island on Anna Maria Island, they have a meeting every month, or before every MPO meeting, the ITPO, the Island Transportation Planning Organization. They have one representative that is on a rotating basis that represents Anna Maria Island on the MPO. We fought hard for that seat.
Right, years ago.
And as their county representative, it makes it difficult to work with them and support the projects in District 3, and that's the reason I was requesting that.
Yeah, and if we don't have designated alternates, then you won't know that you can't talk. So let's say, worst-case scenario, 3 of us can't go to the meeting. Nobody goes from Manatee County. Even if one of us can't go, I'd like to have an alternate. And what I'm asking you is if you will agree to be an alternate. And who I'm asking, basically, is Charles and Robin at this point, because everybody else is either on the MPO or bailed. Do you agree, or do you not want to be?
I'll be
make
an
a-
alternate.
Excuse me?
I will be
The
an
alternate.
You will like to be an alternate? Okay, then I will make Robin and Charles the designated alternates.
So if one of us can't be there, we need to just ask either
Yes. One
of the
Charles or
others.
Robin?
Yes.
Okay.
Do you see any problem with that?
No?
I don't.
That's what we've done in
Good,
the past.
all right. Okay, that's all I had. Anything else for the
Yes.
order?
Yeah, there are two quick things I just wanted to bring up. Congratulations to the staff. Amazing, amazing, amazing. Getting together for the IC Manatee, the Millennials. It was a great event Friday. They put in a lot of hard sweat and tears in getting that thing going because it was a little warm in there in the afternoon.
Really?
But it was a 6 to 9 event. Tons of people showed up.
Yeah, I was
My guess is well over 500-600 people throughout that 3-hour period. I think it was a success. I believe they got a lot of good information. They'll be reviewing that, I'm sure. So again, congratulations to staff. Amazing job, amazing job.
That was good.
Thank you.
Ditto.
It goes with our philosophy of you set them free to use their imagination, and they will just run with it. They did a great job, just amazing.
And it was a lot of work, so we do
Oh.
appreciate the effort. We saw how hard they were working to set it up, and it was, to me, it was amazing how well they pulled it together and pulled many partners into the event. So I heard a lot of good things.
I wasn't aware that you were going to be part of
I saw that on
I saw the
Facebook.
little-
performance,
That's
the
amazing.
entertainment, yeah.
But
That was
video put on
Of
Facebook?
course.
Yeah,
Glenn
somebody
put it on
put it
our
on.
Facebook.
Yeah, it was a riot.
Not mine, though.
Well, yeah.
Oh, we'll share it with you.
I need to see it. I knew he was videotaping it, but that's
He videotapes
what you do when
everything.
you try to be a team player. You even hula hoop on stage.
The other point I
see
wanted to
that.
ask, our comment about,
That was
it's related to the Friday event, but over the last several months, Melton Little, who lives in District 3, has come to my office, and I suggested he visit all the other commissioners and school board members. He had a booth, a place at the IC Manatee. And Melton is really stepping out there as a citizen and getting involved. And he's come up, one of the concerns that I know Robin has and I have with our districts coming together is what's happening with the appearances and what's going on with the Bayshore High School. And I'm just going to talk about the appearances for right now. I'm getting to that. And the 34th Street campus. It's fenced off. It's right up against Bayshore High School. And Melton has come up with a conceptual idea for some type of a South Park area. And I believe there is tremendous opportunity for that 34th Street campus. I would like to ask the county administrator in his regular conversations with the school, with Mr. Mills, encouraging working together and what can we do to, there's buildings there that need to be torn down, or the whole campus. There's a couple buildings that as I understand, the gun range, and there's another building I believe that Tropicana built about 10 years ago that I've been told are worth saving. I'm also aware of some type of agreement now, so there'll be a little activity at least in the fenced-in area with Cedar Hammock Fire District, South Manatee Fire District, and I believe the Sheriff's Department. So, they're concerned about vagrants and people getting in there, so that's moving forward. But I am having some meetings with Melton and with some county staff. It's already been approved to discuss this idea and what's going on with the MTC campus, because it's an amazing idea, and I would encourage everybody to talk with Melton.
Madam Chair, on that? All I'm going to say is we've made a commitment that if the county ever builds a pool, that it will be North County, and that's all I'm going to say on that. So we just have to remember that in our discussions with everybody. And also, I just wanted to state, Carlos actually was watching this meeting in Brazil, and that's why he got his staff to get me the numbers.
Wow.
But mainly, I did want to say that we just remember the commitments that's in our unfunded capital plan that for a few years now.
And just in response to that, just remember, this is just a beginning. Somebody's come up with an idea. We don't need to all of a sudden throw up these barriers when it's not necessary. We don't know where we are yet in this process and how we're going to get down this road, but there is opportunity.
I agree.
And let's open that door. Melton's knocking on the door, and he's invested some funds, so let's open that door and see what it's about. I agree with the pool idea, absolutely, in Palmetto, yes, absolutely. But we have some people, the citizens stepping forward. There's opportunity, and they're bringing ideas and partnership ideas in the private sector. So let's open that door. Let's look in there, you know, and remember that it is about the kids. It is about these kids.
That's the right thing to do.
Yeah, I'm glad you're getting with staff, because I did forward the information we got to staff, so it's good to hear you're following up. Okay, anything else?
Madam Chair.
Mr. Smith?
Yes, I met with Milton Little, and I had made the same statement about the pool, but I'm on board with what he's talking about. I think it's a great idea. He has the energy. He putting money where his mouth at, and he has the ability to partner. And that's the biggest thing that I'm really for, is partnerships. And so when you have that free help and volunteerism and people who he can reach out to make donations, of course, you're going to need county government too. I'm very open to it, and I got a history with him also that I think he's a real good person, and if he puts something together and get it organized, it's going to fly. I really do.
And I was really glad the timing worked out very well for him, because he's very passionate about what's going on in the southwest TIF. So he had that opportunity to come forward, and I said, you know, we're focusing on improvements in this area, so your timing is right. And I also direct him to talk to the school board, since they own the property, and the school board planner, Mike Penley, who's been talking about that property for a long time. So, okay, I'm going to go ahead and go to County Administrator.
Nothing to report.
Okay, County Attorney, anything?
No, ma'am.
Okay. All righty, well, unless there's anything for the good of the order, no, we are adjourned.
Slam.
Well, Mr. Palmer.